headaches, for example. There's more than one cause of a headache. You can have cramped neck muscles that can cause migraines. You can have food allergies. You can have low blood sugar. You can have oxygen deprivation. Okay, 4 main causes of headaches. Now, one of them is more common than the others, but even though it's the same symptom, if it's a different thing that's causing it, we have to address the cause, not the symptom. Okay, that makes sense to everyone? Okay, and we went through this because somebody asked about hypertension. Dr. Wallach says there are 2 causes of hypertension. You can have one or the other or both. Does anybody know what they are? Okay, first one is cramped muscles around the arteries. Okay, if you think of blood pressure, right? We always have 2 numbers with blood pressure, don't we?
Yes.
Why do we have 2 numbers? Why don't we have a total blood pressure? Why are there 2 numbers?
One's coming away from the one's coming back.
Yeah, close. They're actually both on the artery, both on the one coming out. But there's muscles around the arteries. When they contract, that's the higher number. When they relax, that's the lower number. The heart's not strong enough to pump it all the way to your feet and pull it all the way back up. Some of you notice standing for a long time or walking for a long time, which tends to have more swelling. And the answer is standing, because your muscles will help to move the blood along. Okay? So that's why we have 2 numbers. So if those muscles around the arteries cramp up, they contract and they can't relax, that's high blood pressure. If they can't contract in the first place, that's low blood pressure. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. What minerals do we use for contraction of muscles? I'll give you a hint. It's used in the bones a lot. Calcium. And what mineral do you think we use for the relaxation of muscles? Exactly. Okay? So contract and relax, contract and relax. Contract and doesn't relax, that's hypertension. 90% of hypertension, Dr. Wallach says, falls in that category. What's the other 10%?
Kidneys.
Kidneys. Very good. When you have, see, your blood, if you look at the body, blood is the high man on the totem pole. Everything else in the body can break down, and the body still tries to have normal levels in the blood. That's why you can have things breaking down, go get a blood test, and everything looks fine. The analogy we'll use is your wallet versus your bank account. You can have next to no money in your bank account and still have a little bit of money in your wallet. Okay? Looking at a person's wallet does not tell you about their financial success. If you have so little money that there's none in the wallet, then you know they're really in trouble. Okay? Because our blood doesn't use credit cards, right? If there's so low nutrition that it's showing up in the blood, that's a big problem. But it's actually a problem before it ever shows up in the blood. So blood is not the number one thing we test to see how a person's doing. Okay? So just understand that. And because the blood wants to be normal, if the filters to the blood, the kidneys, are plugged up, the body, so you don't die in 2 weeks, increases blood pressure to force more blood through the kidneys to clean out the blood. If you had kidney failure, in about 2 weeks you'd be dead. Okay? So that's part of high blood pressure, is trying to get more blood through clogged filters in the kidneys. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Now, is it possible you can have cramped arteries and clogged kidneys?
Yes.
Yes. So how do we know? How do we know? And this comes back to the beauty of innovation. Veterinarian science does not rely on CAT scans and MRIs. Okay? Because think about it. If the test, the diagnostic test, costs $5,000, would you ever use that on an animal that sells for $500?
No.
Okay? Would you ever see joint replacement surgery for a pig? No. What does a farmer call a pig that needs joint replacement surgery? Bacon, that's right. Okay. So in veterinarian medicine, they learned a truth. And here's the truth that Dr. Wallach uses, and you will probably notice. The body on the outside will give signs of what's going on the inside. Okay? The body on the outside gives signs of what's going on the inside. And so you can ask questions. And veterinarians were detectives. Instead of sending them out for lab work, they were detectives to figure out what's going on and then give the animals what they need. And they've been very, very good. Now, I'll mention this again, but I just want to mention it here. Of all the different types of medicine, if you think of medicine, there's a lot of different types of medicine. Anybody heard of allopathic medicine?
Yes.
Or naturopathic medicine?
Yes.
Or chiropractic medicine? Or Ayurvedic medicine? Or ancient Chinese herbal medicines, right? There's a lot of different types of medicine. Of all medicines, which is the most scientific type of medicine? No, not by far. By far, the most scientific type of medicine, by far, and it's not even close, number 2 is not even close, is actually veterinary medicine. Why is veterinary medicine more scientific? Because they have a better control group. There's no placebo effect with the animals. And the animals don't go by McDonald's on the way home. They give them something to eat and they know exactly what they ate and they know the results. They give the next animal something different. They can test it very, very easily. The most scientific form of medicine and the medicine that gets the best result by far and away is veterinary medicine. That's why in veterinary medicine, well, part of it, scientifically they can use the cure word, and politically they can still use the cure word. They can cure diseases. So, you know, has anybody heard of Dr. Wallach's pig arthritis formula? You've heard the phrase? He would call it after animals, because he can't say we have an arthritis formula for people. He'll say we have an arthritis formula for pigs. But people get similar results, right? And he can say this is the formula that would cure arthritis in pigs. So we're going to go back to that, the pig that had needed knee replacement, joint replacement surgery, right? Before, we called them bacon. But if they get on Dr. Wallach's pig arthritis formula, you know what we call them after that? Cured ham. All right, that's good. But they could use the cure, right? They could get rid of arthritis and joint pain. And we've even had, with Dr. Wallach, he's even worked with Kentucky Derby winners in horse racing. And, you know, if you win the Kentucky Derby, there's a big stud fee when they put it out. But the horse got arthritis. Dr. Wallach worked with it. And not only, instead of retiring, it came back and won again. Now, a 2-time winner, the stud fee goes way up.
Yeah.
Okay? So they've seen some amazing results with the animals. So again, most scientific one is veterinary medicine. They always use what's going on the outside to tell you what's going on the inside. So we're going to go back to this. Does anybody know some of the signs if you're having cramps in the muscles around your arteries? What are other signs that would go with that on the outside? Anybody know?
Sweating.
Not sweating. Sweating will be more with blood sugar. But
Breathlessness.
no.
Muscle cramp?
Muscle cramps, such as a leg cramp, or an eyelid twitch, or stiff shoulders. And if it's the same nutrients that we use in the bones, you can have joint pain, ringing in the ears, loose teeth, cavities, even though you brush your teeth. Anybody ever had cavities even though they brush their teeth? See, if you're having those signs, there's a good chance there are cramped muscles around the arteries too. If you're getting a leg cramp, there's probably cramps going on other places. Okay? Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. All right. Now, what about the kidneys? When your kidneys aren't working, what are some of the signs? Yeah, dialysis is well down the road. We want to address it before it gets there. Yeah, well, no, that's when you've got actually holes in your arteries, or your urinary tract. That can be like kidney stones there. But one of those is when you have dirty blood, you have less energy. You know, people that are lethargic, they get tired very easily. Now, it's not winded, like you're running out of breath, because that can be a heart condition. Okay, but you're just tired all the time. Or maybe you don't go to the restroom very much. Or when you go to the restroom, does anybody know what color it's supposed to be when you go to the restroom? It's supposed to be bright yellow. It's not supposed to be clear. Yeah. Healthy dogs make yellow snow. Just understand. So remember that. It's supposed to be bright yellow. It means you've got great kidney function. Okay, you're welcome to come in. We're still in the preview mode here. We haven't officially started. Healthy dogs make yellow snow. So it's supposed to be bright yellow, but if it's a dark yellow or a brownish yellow, that means there's a lot of toxins in it. If it's clear, it means you've got plenty of fluid, you just don't have enough vitamins. Okay? So those are some of the signs. And so you can look at those and figure out what category it's in. Now, Dr. Wallach actually has taken it a step further. And the step further is in a lecture, people would say, ask a question about hypertension, and he has to figure out which of the two or both do they have. And so he would ask them a series of questions. Has anybody here heard Dr. Wallach in person? Have you noticed during the Q&A, people will ask him a question, and he'll respond often with other questions before he gives them a recommendation, right? And I've had people say, hypertension, I've got hypertension. What do you recommend for hypertension? And he'll look at them and say, do you ever have joint pain? You ever get an eyelid twitch? Do you ever have a leg cramp? Are you ever physically tired and have trouble falling asleep? And they're like, wow, he's psychic. How does he know? Right? He knows because he understands how the body works. And if there's one deficiency in one nutrient, that nutrient can affect other things, not just one thing. Like a water shortage will affect more than just your washing machine. It can affect the shower, the toilet, the sink. And it's the same thing in the body, right? So that's kind of the background on this innovation. And so somebody says, hypertension, what do we do? Again, do we need to know the name of the disease for people to get better?
No.
Okay, and here's what we're going to teach you tonight when we do this. We're going to teach you that you don't need to know the name of the disease. You do need to figure out what category they're in. Oh, yeah? Okay, we're okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's part of the preview. Good. We will review that. But, again, has everybody taken a tour? We have about 50 minutes. Is there anybody who hasn't taken a tour of the facility? Okay, everybody's taken a tour. Great. So we're still not officially started now. We're just like open forum Q&A and stuff before. I was just giving you a preview because you thought, hey, it can be good to hear something twice.
Yeah. So did you know that New Zealand's got the highest incidence of bowel cancer and Crohn's disease in the world?
Really?
Canterbury in particular. Central South Island.
Wow.
Yeah, just
Did
released.
you know, New Zealand, I did know New Zealand has the highest rates of cancer, many types of cancer.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
No selenium.
No selenium.
Yeah.
No selenium in the soil.
Well, we have to give it to our animals or they die.
Right.
It's logical.
And that means we need to give it to our kids
That's right.
and our parents and our neighbors, or they suffer the same fate.
Can you say to our kids that
Asthma
that
too,
we've got
yeah,
on
asthma
capsules,
rates.
they can't take capsules. So you're saying open it up and give it to them anyway?
Well, I believe that kids can take capsules because my kids all take capsules starting at about age 1.
You're getting that right.
They do. If you've ever been to any meetings where I've had my kids there, they'll come up and take capsules in front of them. My kids probably do about 16 capsules a meal. And my kids are ages 2, 4, and 6. And the reason they do it is because as parents, we always do it. And so they see mom and dad take capsules at every meal. So when they start to eat, they want their capsules. And our oldest, when she was 1 and she couldn't speak, she's just starting to eat her own food. And instead of nursing, she would point to things. And so she keeps pointing at the supplements. What, you want this? So we gave her one, and she swallowed it. We said, okay, you try it with water next time, right? But our kids, it's just natural because they see us do it, that they do it. Now, if you want to train them on it, start with frozen peas.
Oh, she's put those out.
Yeah, but that's what you train them. You train them with frozen peas so they start to swallow it. And they'll develop the ability to swallow. It's easy. It's something you can train. Now, can you mix stuff, like open up capsules and mix them in things? Absolutely. My preference for selenium, if you're going to mix it in something, selenium will have a little bit of a garlicky taste. So anything that you would use garlic in would be a good thing to mix in. Like maybe not your orange juice. But curry or a soup, don't do it when you're cooking the soup. Do it afterwards. You can mix it in. Okay? So that's one idea. You mix it in the food. All right. There are some things that you can mix in. Minerals you can mix in before you cook. But vitamins and essential fatty acids amino acids that tend to be after your cook tend to be better, because heat will break them down. Heat doesn't break down minerals. Okay.
I vitamise our vegetables and meat, and then I put the minerals in with that, and osteoethics as well. Is that going to be sort of tying it up and not making it available?
When you cook,
When I put it in with hot vegetables in a vitamiser.
yeah, you can do that with that. Typically, the plant-derived minerals are fine with heat. Heat is not going to break them down. Now, the osteoethics has some vitamin D in it. Does heat break down vitamins? Yeah, so it's better you do it when it's a lower heat than when it's especially hot. But yeah, you can mix it in case. Yeah, because this is the nutrition that was supposed to be in our food. Okay, we have about 10 minutes. Now, when we get started, we're going to have to go kind of fast because we have a lot of things that we can train you on. And one of the most important things, I want you to understand the basic concepts, because if you understand the basic philosophy and steps, it's easy for you to put it together, okay? So that's the most important thing that I want to train you on. I also want to talk about some specific advanced product training so you know how to use some of the other products that go beyond the basics. And then I want to make sure that as much as time permits, we answer the questions that you have. Now, I'd like to share with you the basics because you want to use that same recipe, the same system to help troubleshoot or help resolve concerns or help to find answers to questions that we use in the first place to help people know what to do to be healthy. Okay? Okay, good. Other questions? We still...
Okay, now try to make sure you dumb it down for the little kids, will you please? And me.
I do, really.
Not too much technical of a knowledge, okay? Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Okay, other questions? Again, we haven't officially started. If anyone needs to use the restroom, we have restrooms here, and now's a great time for a restroom break. Yes?
I have a question. How much selenium in that selenium methionine can you take before it becomes a toxic dose?
Oh, good question. To answer that question, let me respond with the question. What does toxic mean?
Maybe before you've overdosed on the selenium.
Overdose. What does toxic mean? That's what you're saying before a toxic level. Before that's what overdose is. You're reaching toxic levels. What does toxic mean? Yeah. It means it starts to giving you a negative effect. All right. Now, when we talk about toxicity for nutrients, most of the time we're talking about an imbalance of another nutrient. For example, you take a whole bunch of magnesium, you can get loose bowels, right? You take a whole bunch of calcium, you can get constipation. You take a whole bunch of both of them together at the right amounts and you're fine. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so most of the time, even vitamin C, you take a whole bunch of vitamin C, it can throw off your absorption of calcium. Okay, so nutrients are supposed to have a balance. So when you talk about a toxic effect for nutrients, and they like to use the word toxic because this is political, right? Political, because a lot of this education comes from pharmaceutical companies or doctors tied with pharmaceutical companies or doctors who have been educated by pharmaceutical companies, and they have a bias of scaring you away from nutrition. Okay? Has anyone died from a selenium overdose? No. Okay? We actually had someone, Dr. Schrouser, talked about this. If you've heard that selenium CD, I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Schrouser. As just an FYI, does anybody know where that interview was done? No, he's from Germany, I'm from the U.S. The interview was done in Newcastle, Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. 'Cause he was on a tour, and he had just done a lecture, and it was so good, and I thought, we should have recorded that. And so the next morning, I got together with him in his hotel room. We got out the recording equipment, and we recorded the selenium CD. It's pretty good quality. So
good.
yeah, we actually called up somebody that had recording equipment, and they brought it in, and they helped us record that one. But yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. But he talked about there was somebody that actually used selenium, and selenium is typically measured in micrograms. Do you know what a microgram is? Micrograms versus a milligram, which is smaller? A microgram. How much smaller? 1,000 times smaller, right? There was someone that mixed that up and was using dosage in milligrams instead of micrograms. They're at 1,000 times the dosage. Okay, 1,000 times the recommended dosage. Okay, they had toxic effects. Brittle hair and garlicky breath. That's the toxic effects. They actually lost their hair at 1,000 times dosage. There was no organ failure, there's no death.
Right.
Okay, so understand toxic effects for selenium, and this goes back to politics. Once the FDA lost in federal court to Dr. Wallach, and we said, oh, guess what? Selenium helps with cancer. And we can say that in the United States, not here. Again, because it's not scientific, it's political, right?
Yeah.
Once they did that, the medical profession does a lot of advertising on TV. And so as part of their advertising package, they would make recommendation for the doctor shows. And we started to see people with selenium overdoses showing up on these TV dramas. Not scientific, political, okay? We haven't seen anybody die from a selenium overdose. Okay, so that's the question. Now, how much before you get garlicky breath and brittle hair? Right? And the science, Dr. Schrouser says, is probably around 1,000 micrograms a day. Okay, but there are balancing nutrients to selenium. Does anybody know what those happen to be?
Vitamin E is one.
Yeah, copper and zinc. And if you look at our selenium capsules, guess what's in copper and zinc? So, are you going to be able to overdose on our selenium? And Dr. Schrouser says, well, he doesn't think so. But you know, when people ask that to Dr. Wallach, he says, can you overdose? He's like, I'm trying. And he says that, so I like that. Okay, so hopefully you understand that, right? Is there a safety factor? Yeah, but you're the safest when you take all 90. So does Dr. Wallach ever recommend just selenium? Somebody mentioned vitamin E, right? Does he ever mention just take selenium? No, he says take the 90 plus selenium. Exactly. Yeah.
Iodine play a role in selenium?
Does what?
Iodine?
Does iodine?
Play a role in the selenium?
Well, those are two nutrients that work in conjunction, especially in the thyroid, right? Has anybody heard of, you know, thyroid support? You use iodine. Selenium's actually used in the thyroid and helping the T3 turn into T4, right? There's some of that progression, and that's kind of how it works in the body. Has anybody heard of a catalyst? Sometimes we use the word enzyme. Do you know what an enzyme is? It is something to help a reaction move forward. There are more reactions inside the body than there are outside the body. And the reason is we have enzyme systems. And if you look at any chemical reaction, and we have, I think we should put our hands together for Sanjeev Javia. He's come in. He's one of our scientific advisors. But he can tell you every step in a reaction requires an enzyme. Okay? And guess what enzymes use as their batteries? Minerals, right? Okay. Do you know minerals? And we can, this is a good one to kind of end with, and then we'll have everybody stand up and take a stretching break. But minerals, if you look at them, they're elements. You look at the periodic chart, you can see elements, right? And there's a whole bunch of elements. Most of those are what we would classify as minerals. And how you tell what minerals are in a solution is they give it energy, and it releases certain frequencies of energy depending on the electron ring. Okay, has anybody ever heard Bill Andreoli use the phrase "stay in the lane"?
Yes.
Stay in your lane. You know, electrons have a lane. You know, the periodic chart number 1 is here, and number 2 is like you go down and across and back up, and there's number 2 over here, right? That's because those represent, the different ones represent different lanes. And there's an SP and a D, and you don't need to remember all that. But that's why we have that weird shape, kind of like a funky U shape with the periodic chart. There's different lanes. And when an electron is excited or gains energy, it moves up a lane. It doesn't straddle the line. It's like if you think of, if you're on the freeway, the expressway, right? You don't have somebody riding in both lanes. They're either on one lane or the other. And you increase your speed, you move to the outside lane, right? it's kind of that way how, that's the principle. And it requires certain energy to move from this lane to the next lane. That's why every element, when it gives off a frequency, will have its own light spectrum that it releases. And what element, like oxygen, will have a different frequency or light spectrum than, say, aluminum. All of them will have different ones, and that's actually how they see. It's called the spectrograph, is the machine they use to see what the energy is. Now, think of it on a molecular level, not an atomic level, but a little bit bigger molecular level. These are batteries. And if you think of batteries, what do we use as the primary components of a battery? Have you ever heard of a copper battery, right? Or a nickel battery? We use minerals because they will hold certain energies and release those energies. Now think of batteries in our lives. Do we use different types of batteries for different machines? You'll use one battery for your watch, and a different one for your cell phone, a different one for your computer, and a different one in your car, right? If my computer dies, I can't take my watch and plug it in. Okay, now sometimes there's connections, but you understand that different batteries will have different functions. It's the same thing with minerals and enzymes. For a certain reaction to happen, you need the enzyme, and you need the cofactor of that enzyme for that reaction to happen like it's supposed to. If you're missing the battery, you don't get the results. And one of the things selenium does is it's the battery for an enzyme system called the glutathione, which actually helps to detoxify the body and reverse oxidative damage. Now, chemically, it's called a reducer. And if you remember that from the selenium CD, it's called a reducer, but it's not an antioxidant. Antioxidant prevents damage. It actually goes and fixes damage. Okay? And when we talk about advanced products, that's one of the things that the immortalium does. It's a glutathione support product. So if you want to boost the body's ability to fix oxidative damage, that immortalium is an amazing product. Okay. So anyways, that's a little something about enzymes and minerals and why we need such a variety of it, because we have all these different reactions in the body, and they all require different enzymes, and each enzyme has a specific mineral that it uses. Okay, and with that, looks like it's about 6 o'clock. So let's all stand up and stretch for a minute. Okay, before we start, is there anybody that didn't get one of these? And preferably one, just because we had I brought 100, we have more than 100 people registered for the convention, so those that aren't here tonight, we're still going to try to give them an opportunity to get some, but those that are couples, please, we invite you to use one per couple. So anybody else that needs one of these? All right. Now, I've had a few people ask if they can record. You're welcome to record, but let me give my disclaimer, right? The disclaimer, and this is for, yes, it is for political purposes. The information that I'm going to share with you are things that I have learned in my association over the last 18 and a half years with Dr. Wallach. Okay? So they're research that comes from Dr. Wallach or from people who have worked with Dr. Wallach. And it's not intended to diagnose or treat any disease, but it is intended to help you be healthy. Okay? Are we good with that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, now,
Are you able to speak up a bit over their nose?
I will try to speak up as best as I can, but I am one that tends to be a little softer spoken. I mean, you know, I wish I had the lung capacity of Tom Schneider. But so, if you can't hear me and you miss something, just raise your hand and I'll try to repeat it as best I can. And I also have another treat for you because I'll give you a version of this on CD afterwards. Now, it's a version of this. So this one is tailored to you. The CD isn't tailored to you. The CD is a recording from our convention in Ontario earlier this year. Okay. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and let me start with an introduction. My name's Blake Graham, and I've worked with Dr. Wallach for 18 and a half years. Before that, I spent about 4 years with another nutritional company and I was in pre-med. Now, in pre-med, you have to study physics and biology and chemistry. Calculus, I still have no idea why there's calculus. Weeding out process, not that they use it, but it's a weeding out process. But what amazed me is there was no nutrition. And we were taught that between the 4 years of undergraduate work and 4 years of graduate work, 8 years of schooling, anyone want to guess at how much nutritional training we were going to get? It was actually 30 minutes. One 30-minute lecture with no test. And honestly, that lecture is designed to give a bias against nutrition more than it is to teach you how the advantages of nutrition. Okay? Now, it's changed. I think it's up to an hour again. And it used to be an hour before that. So, yeah, most nutritional, if you've heard dead doctors don't lie, you probably had more nutritional training than most doctors get. All right. Having said that, I want you to understand that nutrition is in scientific journals. And there's lots of it. Does anybody have a smartphone on them? Okay. Now, if it was Dr. Wallach, he would say turn it off. I'd say just turn it on silent mode. But if you have it, I want you to go to a website and look something up for me. And this is a website that hopefully you'll get kind of excited about. It's one that Sanjeev is very familiar with, called PubMed.gov. Most of the time, you go to Yahoo or Bing or Google, you cannot look up medical journals. They are not indexed by those search engines. Medical journals are considered privileged information only for a select group of people that pay a fee to have access to that information. But the U.S. government created something called the U.S. National Medical Library, where as part of the National Institute of Health, they index the medical journals. And this is the place where you can look at their indexing. You can look it up. So go to www.pubmed.gov, and if you want to think of it this way, it's the bar where doctors go to drink.
Yes.
Okay? It's not WebMD, it's PubMed. WebMD is not scientific. It's, again, political. But this one is about scientific medical journals. It's not all medical journals, it's just the ones that the U.S. government has decided to index. And it doesn't include veterinary medicine. So you look up Dr. Wallach, you're not going to find a lot of things on Dr. Wallach in this one. Okay? A lot of that is veterinarian medicine that he's just published in. But if you go to www.pubmed.gov, and I want you to go there, there's a search function, and type in the word selenium, and then cancer. Type in those two words together, and tell me how many articles you find in medical journals that have been indexed by the U.S. government. How many on selenium and cancer? Now, I was impressed when I was in pre-med. There was a nutritional company opening up in Japan. I had lived in Japan for a few years. I speak some Japanese. And they were looking for some translators. And as I'm translating, I came across the word antioxidants. And I went and asked my professor, because I'm hearing about this research from them, can antioxidants help prevent cancer? And he says, that's a bunch of lies. But when I went to the school, it was Medline at the time, at the university there's a way you could look up medical journals. And I typed in antioxidants in there. I found 800 articles in medical journals going back over 20 years. It wasn't a bunch of lies. It was a bunch of information that they weren't using. Right? I want you to understand there's a lot of information out there that they don't use. Okay? How many articles on selenium and cancer?
117.
4,496.
4,496. Now, do this, the end of the year, it'll be over 4,500, I think. Because when we started looking at this, it was 3,900. Now, take off the word cancer, because selenium can be used for a lot more things in the body. Dr. Wallach talks about selenium for use in the brain, and the heart, and the liver. If you just look at selenium, how many articles are in there?
28,500.
28,000. Now, if you really want to blow your mind, put in the word antioxidants and tell me how many articles are in there. And the answer is?
445,000.
445,000. Now, does that sound like a little or a lot to you?
Ridiculous amount.
An incredible amount, right? Some of these, Dr. Wallach, because he sued the FDA, has actually been able to change health regulations in the United States. We can talk about selenium preventing cancer. Okay, now we can't talk about that in New Zealand because New Zealand hasn't admitted that. But the United States has, okay? But it's in the medical journals. Does that make sense to you? Okay, why is it not used? Anybody know? Yeah, unfortunately. We talk about politics, a lot of politics involves profits. Okay, and unfortunately what we call medicine is allopathic medicine, one branch of medicine, and that's run by drug companies. Do pharmaceutical companies make more money when you're healthy or when you're sick? Okay, everybody understands that. You guys understand that, right? Are they going to make more money if you're sick for a short period of time or a long period of time?
Long.
If they treat the cause or the symptom? The symptom, right? And do they make more money when there's fewer sick people or more sick people? Okay, you cannot turn to the companies that make money when you're sick and expect them to lead you to health. That won't happen. It will lead you to symptomology. Okay, and it's great for traumatic care because their innovation is never about how do we make something more efficient and cheaper for the patient. Medical innovation is always about how do we make more profits. Okay? That's why the innovation is different. Now we're going to talk about this from Dr. Wallach's perspective. And remember, it's veterinary medicine, and veterinary medicine is the most scientific medicine because it has the best control group. They know exactly what the animals eat. The animals don't go by McDonald's on the way home. They've eliminated a lot of unnecessary variances from group to group, and there's no placebo effect in animals. And I should mention this. Do you know for drugs to get approved, does anybody know what the threshold is? How effective a drug has to be? 1% more effective than the placebo at relieving a symptom. That's the threshold. 1% more effective than the placebo at relieving a symptom. So an analogy, if your car has engine trouble and you put sand in the oil and it has a quieter engine, you've relieved the symptom. And you could say sand is effective for the treatment of engine trouble. It actually destroys the engine. But that's the analogy. Do some drugs do more harm long term than good? And in fact, most drugs, you could say that with, because they work by having something in the body not work. They break a biological pathway. That's what their names imply. Anticoagulant, okay, proton pump inhibitor, painkiller, beta blocker, calcium channel blocker. Anybody heard those names? Yes. They stop something from the body from working. And the concept is if the bridge is out, you put up a roadblock so you don't go over the bridge. That's the concept. How many roadblocks to fix the bridge? Do roadblocks fix the bridge?
No.
They don't. How many painkillers to repair your bones?
None.
Nutrition is the construction crew to repair the bridge, not the roadblock to keep you from going over the bridge. You see the difference there? Okay, that's why taking drugs is very different from taking nutrition. And there's actually a CD about this from a pharmacist, Ben Fuchs, and pharmacists know a lot more about drugs than doctors do. Pharmacist Ben Fuchs talks about this on a CD called The Divine Magnificence of Nutrition. If you ever have somebody who doesn't understand the concept, they think medicine is drugs, is essential nutrients. Drugs are essential. If they have that concept, they need to listen to that CD. Okay? Divine Magnificence of Nutrition. Now, when I mention that as kind of a preview, because politically, regulatorily, we need to stay legal. Okay? So even though it's not scientific, if it is the law, we follow the law. That makes sense to everyone?
Yes.
And so as a result, diseases don't go with our products or company, even though they could use it in veterinary medicine. We're talking about human nutrition. So instead of using product names and diseases together, we're going to use the support word with tissues and symptoms. This is one of the reasons you will not see Longevity sell the Dead Doctors Don't Lie book or CD. If they're talking about diseases, they can't sell it with products. Okay? And that's also why you can't go to Dead Doctors Don't Lie and look up a disease and see the name of a product to take. You can talk about nutrients, but not products. Okay? Because in America, the FDA, the definition of a drug is anything that works on a disease. So as soon as a product works on a disease, they want it to have drug approval or FDA approval on that. And that totally messes up the costing structure and your access to it. So, so we're going to talk about products that support kidneys, products that support the immune system, right? And sometimes people will ask you a question, and we have to rephrase their questions before we answer it. If somebody asks about arthritis, what do I do for arthritis? Longevity does not have products for arthritis. You say, can I rephrase the question? What does Dr. Wallach recommend for bone support? I can answer that question. If somebody asks about ALS or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, we can talk about brain support. You see how we're rephrasing the question? And this goes on, instead of diabetes, we talk about blood sugar. Instead of celiac and Crohn's disease, we talk about digestion. Instead of cancer, we talk about immune support. Instead of kidney disease, we talk about kidney support. Some of these are easy to do. But why is this important? Because we need to stay legal. We need to be around for generations to come because people are going to need this help. And remember, veterinarian medicine, do the animals need to know the name of the disease in order to get results? We don't even need to know the name of the disease to be able to help people. We just have to follow the system. And that's the key to success. If you look at Dr. Wallach, why he did this, the key to success is following a proven system of helping other people with both their physical and financial health. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about the financial health, but let me underline that, except on the wall. I don't want to use a marker and underline it on the wall. But why is that important? Because he needs an army of evangelists helping him share the message. Okay? Building the business is spreading the crusade. And that's why a lot of what you're going to hear this weekend will be about business building. And business building is critical because we need people out there helping us share the message. All right? Now, part of this, what we're going to talk about innovation with a system, is how to make things easier than ever before.
Just a little bit more. Thank you. Beautiful.
Okay. We want a system to make things easier than ever before. When the Wright brothers first innovated and created an airplane, you needed either skill in piloting or engineering in order to be able to fly in an airplane. But I arrived this morning from America, and I don't have any engineering or piloting background. And it was easier than probably in the days of the Wright brothers. So they couldn't have made it across the Pacific Ocean, right? Why? Because of innovation. And we talked about it with computers before. Computers are more complicated than ever and easier to use than ever before. And it's the same thing. There's a lot of science that will go into this system. But this system has had such great innovation over the last 18 and a half years I've been with Dr. Wallach that it's easier than ever before to do. Okay? There's been system innovation on the product side. If anybody remembers the first products, back when it was the pig arthritis formula, and they tasted like they were made for pigs. Denise remembers that, too. Kid remembers that. You're like, wow. I remember thinking if we ever had something for human consumption, this could really grow. And now we've got things like the root beer belly, the BTT 2.0. They even came up with the tablets, right? Yeah, and there's a lot of ways that we can get products in that taste good. And so it's easier on the product side, but it's also easier on the education side, and that's what we do. And that's the system. And so we're going to teach you that system here. And there's 3 steps. And I do encourage you to learn these 3 steps. If you'll do these 3 steps, that's what we do. 1, identify the category of tissue breaking down. Now, some of you are taking pictures of this. Let me also tell you, you have a picture of this right here. Because this is your cheat sheet. Okay? And this is brand new. As of today, there are officially, because this just barely came out, there are officially more people in New Zealand that have this than there are in the United States. Yeah. So 3 things. You identify what's breaking down. It's not the name of the disease. It's the tissue that's breaking down. You need to know what category, because there's 4 basic categories. We're going to go over those, right? But just like I mentioned before, if you have bones breaking down, it doesn't matter if it's plantar fasciitis or arthritis or tinnitus or cavities or sciatica or if you have the spine collapse and actually pinches on a nerve that causes heart arrhythmia, for example, it doesn't matter what the bone is. The bones use the same basic nutrition to rebuild. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
That's why it's in the same category. That's why Dr. Wallach's recommendation will be the same recommendation even on diseases that seem very, very different, because it's the same category breaking down. And it's not just the bones, for example, that are fit into the category. It's anything that uses that same nutritional grouping. Okay? And we were talking about muscles. Muscles use calcium when they contract, magnesium when they relax. So if you're having calcium deficiencies, magnesium deficiencies, you're going to see leg cramps and eyelid twitches and stiff shoulders, which aren't bones, but it's the same basic category. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so we're going to go over these categories. And we're going to use a self-evaluation. This is a big part of the system. Why is self-evaluation important? Because if you're talking about health, and you're not a health professional, you're not supposed to diagnose. You're not supposed to give people advice when you don't have the training on how to give them advice. And not the training, the certification, the licensing on how to give them advice. But instead, people can do a self-evaluation and they can come to the conclusion on their own. That makes sense?
Yes.
That is legal. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a series of questions that Dr. Wallach would ask at the end of his lectures. And based on your response to those questions, you're going to put in a number. A 0 if you don't have that symptom at all. You don't have any of that, you're going to put a 0 in. If you barely have it, you're going to use a 1. If you've got it, slight to moderate, 2 to 3. If it's severe, a 4 or 5. You are going to grade yourself. All right? Now, afterwards, you're going to use a total for each category. You cannot measure one category versus another because the number of questions are different. What you can use that for is to track your progress. Because we expect if you do the right things in 30 days, you're going to see those numbers come down to about half. And when you're working with other people, we're going to encourage you to follow up with them to make sure that they're progressing like they want to. Because if you get somebody that's making progress, 2 things can happen. 1, they really like the progress and they stay on the products. 2, they don't even recognize the progress. I've had people that have gone from pure white hair to half brown and say, I don't see any difference. And we have to take a mirror with a picture from last year and put it side by side and they go, oh wow, okay, that's different, right? Being healthy is natural. So when people are healthy, sometimes they forget about how they used to be. Oh, I'm not seeing any difference. Because it's not like it's a painkiller that you take it and right away you see a difference. It's something that rebuilds. And so in 30 days, yeah, I'm not seeing anything. And then they fill out the form. Oh, yeah, I guess I am. Yeah, this is improved, and that is improved, and this other thing's improved. And that's good. And if you don't follow up with people, sometimes they don't recognize that. So please follow up with them. That'll also let you know that if you need to do some troubleshooting, if maybe they haven't taken the right, they haven't identified the category, or they're not doing the right package and dosage, they're not getting the results. And one example is, we'll use the automobile industry. We'll use this a lot, for example, because people tend to understand how their cars work better than their bodies. If you have a flat tire, how many times do you have to change the battery before the tire's fixed? I have people that have problems with hard tissue, and all they're doing is the healthy body pack. They're not taking all the stuff, and they're not getting optimal results. I have other people with blood sugar issues, and they're not taking the sweeties. Are they going to get the same results as people that actually use the sweeties? No. Okay. So that then after we've identified the category, we're going to use the appropriate pack and dosage. And we have a little easy to read chart on what products go with each category, what package goes with each category. And dosage you're going to need to learn. We'll teach you about dosage. And the final thing is to clean up the diet. Now this is important because unfortunately in our day and age there is a lot of things that destroy the digestive tract, that damage the digestive tract. That's why celiac and Crohn's disease is increasing. There's more chemicals. Anybody heard of gluten intolerance?
Yes.
Yeah. This happens, and it's gone way up since they started to hybridize wheat. And if you read the book, Clean Up Your Diet, Dr. Ed Lozier actually talks about the introduction of a gene But it was a natural gene, so they don't call it genetically modified, it's just hybridized. Okay? That is designed to melt the digestive tract of insects, and we just assumed it was safe for you and I when we put it in wheat. But since the introduction of the gene, gluten intolerance and celiacs and Crohn's disease have all skyrocketed.
Is that like leaky guts?
Yeah. That's in that same category, yeah? Because we're damaging the digestive tract. All right? So if you keep damaging the digestive tract, even if you take the right things, if you don't absorb them, you're not going to get the results. And if you take the wrong things, and you're damaging the body at the same time you're trying to rebuild the body, do you see how that can lessen your results? Okay? The same amount of damage, sure, it's better to take nutrition than no nutrition. But ideally, we stop the damage and start the repair work. Okay? So that's why that's important. Now let's go through this. And this one you can do. Here, let me give you one of these. This one you can do if you open up your sheet. It's designed, this is number 2. You open this up, and there's a series of questions. Now, I would start with the person's name here. So that you know whose this is, because that'll help you with the follow-up. Okay. And when you hand this out, you can make sure you put your name on it so they can follow up with you. So, we're going to go through this. Hard tissue. Remember, you're going to put your score there, but let's just say, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever had knee pain, shoulder pain, or joint pain? Put your hands up. Now, when the problem gets worse, we will see multiple symptoms in the same category, and the numbers increases. How many of the same people have ever had back pain or neck pain, or stiff shoulders or headaches, or numbness, your foot fall asleep, or your arm fall asleep? Have you ever been physically tired and have trouble getting to sleep? How about bleeding gums or cavities even though you brush your teeth? Now, do cavities happen in the wild with the animals? Yes. Do they happen with the animals in captivity? Almost never. Because they give them the nutrition the body needs. Anybody ever heard the phrase, never look a gift horse in the mouth?
Yeah.
In the days of the Wild West, when we rode horses instead of cars, to see if the horse had strong bones, they would look at the teeth. And if it had cavities or loose teeth or crooked teeth, that was a sign weak bones. And that's how you could tell the value of a horse by how its teeth were. So if somebody gave you a horse, it was considered impolite to look in its mouth. That's like looking at the price tag on a gift. Okay, that's where that phrase comes from. Okay? Kidney stones or bone spurs, high or low blood pressure, or painkillers. I have some people say, I don't have any of that pain, I'm taking painkillers. If you're taking painkillers, you're in that category. Does that make sense? So you might have zeros, but they're taking painkillers every day. That's a 4 or a 5, you're in that category. Okay? And even painkillers won't get rid of a lot of these things. It does get rid of pain. It doesn't get rid of cavities. Question?
What are bone spurs?
Bone spurs is when you actually get where the bone gets soft and the tendon pulls on it, and you get a nodule that'll pull out of the bone. And some people have them at the base of, like, on their heel. They walk and it becomes painful. Sometimes it'll be like on the back, and you're like, oh, I've got this spot that's always really sore because there's actually a piece of the bone that's sticking.
On the foot, like in this spot here?
Yeah, it can be something like that. Yeah, you can see it. Sometimes people have it on their feet. A little bit of a deformity where something looks like it's sticking out. Yeah.
What about shin splints?
Shin splints. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, so.
Shin splints.
Bones?
Yeah. And again, this is a good question. What about shin splints? Is it on this sheet? No. Are all the possible questions on here? No. But you can say, would that fall into knee, shoulder, or joint pain? Does that? And chances are, they're going to have some of these other symptoms, even if shin splints isn't listed here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So somebody that has shin splints, are they going to see some of these other things happening? There's a good chance.
Yeah.
Now, if you're an athlete, you can wear it on the bones and not have some of these other symptoms when you're young. But if you know it's bones, you're going to put it in that category. That's hard tissue. Hard tissue with bone, joints, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, and muscles are going to fall in this category. Okay, question?
With a damaged tendon,
What?
where a tendon's actually been damaged,
Yeah.
and surgery wasn't done,
Yeah.
so to heal the body healing itself. So would that come on, a tendon come into that category?
Yes.
Or the soft tissue category?
This category.
That's right.
This category. Right.
Some muscles, ligaments, or
Muscles, ligament, tendons, and bones. Okay? Good questions. Next one. Soft tissue category. A lot of things in the body, if they're not hard tissue, they're in soft tissue. Can you name me some soft tissue?
lung.
The skin. Now, heart is actually a muscle, but because it's got such a priority on calcium and magnesium, we rarely see a calcium and magnesium reflected in the heart. That deficiency reflected in the heart. We do see a lot of essential fatty acid deficiencies reflected in the heart. And that's also what's used for the skin. That's why it falls in the same category. But lungs, skin, heart, brain, eyes,
Liver.
the liver, thyroid. There are a lot of things that are going to be listed in this category, okay? Now, let's go through and see, have you ever had, again, you can raise your hand, has anybody here ever had dry skin? Dry skin, dry cuticles, skin allergies. Here's one, cracks on your heels. Did you know that cholesterol is not bad for you?
Yes.
Did you know that the medical profession in JAMA last year in March admitted that all of the research on cholesterol being bad for you was fabricated? And they quit teaching that LDL is bad for you in medical schools. But since they do $141 billion with the B, US dollars, in Lipitor cells alone, they let them continue to sell Lipitor. So this is one, even the medical profession has officially admitted they were wrong. And the person who made up the cholesterol is bad for you, Dr. Allen Keyes, lied. But they waited till he died before they said that.
How gracious of them.
Yeah. They do that. Yeah, and you may have heard science progresses one death at a time because there's a lot of politics in science. Okay, so anyways, if cholesterol does not cause heart disease, and it does not cause heart disease, what does? And the answer is, you know, arteriosclerosis, anybody heard of arteriosclerosis? This is the body's attempt to plug up cracks in your arteries. The problems aren't cracks in your arteries. If you didn't have arteriosclerosis going on, these people would be bleeding to death internally. Okay? So, how do you tell if you have cracks in your arteries? And the answers are cracks on your heels. Not your shoe, your heel. This is a big sign, folks. So if you have cracks on your heel, that's a big sign. And you know what else goes with that sometimes? Cracks in the brain. Would anyone like to know how to tell if you have cracks in the brain? If you have breakdown in the brain, you've got cracks, the brain's not working like it's supposed to. You ready for this? Are you ready for this? Because this could be kind of a scary thing to think about. It's my fault. Have you ever walked into a room to get something? And when you get there, you couldn't remember what it was? Okay. Have you ever looked at your children, you look them right in the eyes, and you call them by the wrong name? Now that's especially bad if you only have one child. But I did have somebody say it's not as bad as calling your wife by your ex-wife. That's worse. Okay. Have you ever been in the middle of the conversation and you had a word and you know what the word is, you just can't get to it? You know that thing, you know that thing, right? Or you know that guy, you know that guy, or like that place, you know the place we go to on Sundays, that, you know, red bricks and then church. Yeah, church, that was the word, right? Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation and you go to say something and you can't remember what you were going to say? Yeah. Here's what's happening, okay? Here's what's happening. In the brain, memory is chemically protein on the cell membranes. But what connects one cell to another cell is a bridge called myelin. And myelin is made of cholesterol. So when you don't have enough, your body has to start borrowing bridges from one place and take it to another place. You start running out of bridges. And sometimes you walk into the room to get something because you needed that thing, and when you get here you look back to see what thing you needed and the bridge is gone. Where did that go? I'm here for something. I've even had people in the middle of a phone call, they like hit the first number and forget who they were gonna call. I was gonna call somebody. I mean, I got my phone out, I pushed a number. Who was I gonna call, right? And the worst one is when you're in the middle of a conversation, you go to cross that bridge and the bridge goes out. I was gonna say something. My mouth is open. What were we talking about? Right? And we have that because we're having a breakdown. Now, it's common, but it's not the way it's supposed to be. Right? Trouble breathing, a cough or a dry throat, tiredness or kidney problems, eye or eyesight problems, age spots or blemishes, gray hair, wrinkles. These are all things that are signs of a breakdown in soft tissue. And the more of a breakdown you have, the more different signs you can see. And the greater the numbers will become. And here's what I want you to understand. If you don't deal with the problem will get worse. If you have a tire that's leaking air and you don't put more air in it, what's going to happen to that tire? Is it going to get better on its own?
Deflate.
In the body, if we don't address what's going on, the body will continue to break down until we give it the stuff it needs to repair itself. Okay. Next one, blood sugar. And blood sugar, there's only 4 that I look at, 5 that we use on a regular basis. There can be a few others, so the number of questions are smaller. But again, we're not looking at the total to compare the categories. We're looking at what are the individual numbers. Are you getting 0s and 1s? Are you getting 2s and 3s? Or are you getting 4 and 5s? 2s and 3s, you've got it. 4 or 5, it's severe. Okay? So here's what happens. Anybody here ever had cravings for something sugary, something sweet? Have you ever been physically full and gone to the refrigerator to see what looks good? Yeah. You know when it's really bad? You look in the fridge and nothing kind of jumps out at you. You close the door, wait for 30 seconds, open it up to see if anything's changed. Have we done that, right? That's our body saying, give me something. And we don't know what it is, but we're having those cravings. Has anybody ever gotten sleepy after a meal? You get sleepy from low blood sugar. Did you know that? You get sleepy from low blood sugar. Why are you getting low blood sugar after a meal? Because you have a blood sugar imbalance. Because you actually have spikes in insulin because the insulin's not working and ends up driving it too low, and now you've got low blood sugar. Okay, that's a sign. So if we had this after lunch, we could kind of look around the room and see who's got this problem, right? Have you ever had an excessive thirst or sweating when the other people aren't? Or maybe you're waking up in the middle of the night to use the restroom. Now, Dr. Watt says, men, if that's you, and it's painful and only a little comes out, that can be the sign of an enlarged prostate. But if a lot comes out and it's not painful, it's a blood sugar imbalance. And he says, well, ladies, if you're waking up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, he says, rest assured it is not a prostate problem. It's going to be a blood sugar imbalance, right? Because when your insulin doesn't work, the body has backup systems. Does anybody know what the backup is for the insulin? Your kidneys. When your blood sugar is so high that it's starting to damage the arteries of your, the lining of your arteries, that your body has to clean that out, and it puts it out in the urine. If you go to the restroom, you see bubbles, that's sugar. Okay. And in fact, in Japan, literally translated, diabetes is sugar urine disease.
Wow.
Literally translated. Tonyobyo, if you're wondering. Okay? So those are the signs, right? If you go to the restroom and it's cloudy, okay, if it's cloudy, that's either sugar or bacteria. And if you don't have a bladder infection, it's going to be sugar. And some people say, no, all of these are fine because I'm on blood sugar medication. We know you're in that category. Now, here's what I wanted to mention. I am going to have to plug this in this Kurt here. Okay.
Anyone with a Mac?
Do you mind? I need the adapter to plug in. Yeah. in Mother Nature, whenever you have more minerals, you actually have sweeter produce. Did you know that if you have two apples that are the same type of apple and one apple tastes sweeter, it's the apple with more minerals. Okay? And that's why when we are deficient in minerals, we will crave sweets, because it's our body's natural attempt to give more minerals. And when we find in agriculture, because actually longevity is a line of agriculture that we use commercially, when we add minerals in it, we, without fail, in every category, see an increase in how well plants grow and how well the crops grow. We'll see an increase in the bricks rating. So as a result, we get better produce. And because we're craving something sweet, if we use just sugar but not extra minerals, we actually can make that imbalance worse. Because you need minerals to process sugar. Has anybody heard of chromium vanadium?
Yeah.
You know where they naturally grow cane sugar? It has chromium vanadium in the soil. But we leave that in there and just export the sugar. And we get sugar imbalances. And it goes up in society because we have more mineral deficiencies, so we use more sugar. Has anybody noticed almost everything has sugar in it?
Yeah.
That's because the actual ingredients, the taste of them have gone down, and as a result, we're adding other things to make it taste better. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Now, we see this with every crop we have tested. I'm going to show you some examples of those crops. But we have seen it with every single crop where you can see sweetness goes up when you give them minerals in the soil that the plants can absorb, right? Whether it's grapes or carrots or tomatoes or a number of things. And by the way, do you know how to tell if you've got a tomato that has more minerals than a tomato that doesn't? I mean, before you eat it, it's nice to tell before you eat it, right?
It sinks in water.
It sinks in water.
Oh,
The denser it is, the less air pockets it have, the heavier it is, and it'll sink in water. So the next time you go shopping, if you really want this tomato, you take a bucket of water with you, right? You put it in, those that sink you buy, those that float you put back. If somebody looks at you and says, I'm just washing the produce.
Get the poison off.
Okay, so we also see an increase in yield, on average about a 20% increase in yield. And so here's just some examples of the bricks reading, which is the reading of sweetness, with cherries from 14.5 to 19.8. Tomatoes, we just talked about. Corn from a 13 to a 17.6. Grapes from an 18.8 to a 22.3. And I want you to understand, when you give the body what it needs, it will do amazing things to heal itself. Now, I'm going to tell you some actual results of a gentleman. This is Jerry Murphy. Jerry Murphy owns a company called Gamma Labs. If a hospital does a test in-house, they can do it in-house. They just do it themselves. But sometimes they say, we have to send that to the lab. He owns the labs that they send it to. Okay? And he works with a number of doctors. He is what they were calling brittle diabetes. Brittle diabetes is the diabetes that does not respond to medications. And Dr. Wallach says, give me a chance. Give me 90 days. And he didn't think he could do it. He's like, my best scientific minds, all the doctors I employ, they can't fix the problem. But Dr. Wallach told him what to do, and including clean up the diet. Look at his fasting glucose. From April 14th to October 21st.
Wow.
His hemoglobin, 7.3 down to a 4.92. His creatine, this is kind of a measure of where we have protein being lost in the urine, has gone down. Blood pressure, you can see the numbers. Body weight, you can see the difference. When you give the body what it needs, it will do some amazing things. Okay? So, do we get results with blood sugar support? Absolutely. In fact, I expect that people start to see results with blood sugar support, again, not with the name of a disease, within 2 weeks, on average. 2 days on the quick side, but if it's more than a month and we're not seeing numbers come down, then there's something going wrong. that we have to address. Okay, blood sugar goes up and down every single day. It's one of the fastest things to respond. Okay. Now, let's go to the next one, digestive category. Now, here is something that's not on here, but I want you to understand. When you have signs in multiple categories, is there anybody that's had signs in multiple categories? That is the number one sign of a digestive issue. Okay, digestive issue, digestion is the door to the body. And when the door is closed or hampered, that you don't get as much things in as you're supposed to, you can run out of a lot of different things. Now, the things you tend to run out of first are the things you use the most, right? So with digestive issues, we tend to see soft tissue problems first. And anytime there's a severe soft tissue problem, Dr. Walk says there's a good chance there's a digestive problem. But there are some signs that will track with digestion. Now, there are some things that you won't see any signs. For example, and I'll go to this really quickly. Villi. Anybody heard of villi? You can damage the villi such to the point that it goes from healthy villi, where nutrients can get all the way down here, to moderate damage, where it goes about halfway. You've lost about 70% of your absorption area, to severe damage, where this is all scar tissue. How are you going to get absorption through scar tissue? But there are no nerves in the villi. There will be no pain associated with this damage. So you can have lots of damage in the small intestine and never feel a thing. Okay? So don't think you have to have these signs for digestive issues. But there are some signs that you know are kind of giveaways for this, because they deal with either the stomach or the large intestine. And if you have problems in the stomach, it's still part of the digestive tract. We were going to assume that there's probably other things that are being damaged too. So we're going to treat the body as a whole. Does that make sense? So let's look at this. Heartburn or acid reflux. Understand, it is never too much acid. It is always acid in the wrong place. Let me repeat that. It is never too much acid. It is always acid in the wrong place. That's what reflux means. Reflux is it's coming up when it should stay down. It's like the expressway. If you have cars going the wrong direction, it doesn't take many of them to cause a problem. That's the reflux. Okay? You get more acid reflux when you have weaker stomach acid than when you have strong stomach acid. Because your stomach is a muscle and it churns. And if it's strong stomach acid, it churns a little bit and it's fine. If it's weak, they're pumping away trying to break down the food. So if you give it an antacid that lowers stomach acid, or even worse, you give it a proton pump inhibitor to poison the chief cells so your body can't create stomach acid, are you going to get better digestion or worse? See? Stomach or intestinal pain, bloating or gas. If you feel better when you don't eat, let me mention this. Bloating or gas is a sign of bad bacteria. Bad bacteria is bad for your digestion. That makes sense to everyone?
Yep.
Okay? Smelly gas is another sign. So if you're seeing bloating or gas, that's a sign. We have something to deal with. Food allergies, seasonal allergies, constipation or diarrhea, or immune system problems. Immune system has a lot to do with the gut for two reasons. Anybody heard of an appendix?
Yes.
Did you know there are cells that are only created in your appendix for the immune system?
Wow.
Everybody may have heard of a killer T cells. There's actually something called a B cell. And it's made only in the appendix. So if you've had your appendix taken out, you have already a compromised immune system. Okay? Also, has anybody heard of leaky gut? Leaky gut is when you actually have holes in the digestive tract. You get undigested food into the blood, and your body treats that like an invader, has to clean it up. As a result, you get one of two things. Your body's now in panic mode, and that's where seasonal allergies come from. Pollen is the trigger, not the cause. Or you get an immune system that now is all worn out. It has to deal every day with leaky gut. And you have less room or capacity to deal with other invaders. Okay? That's why as a category it falls into this. Now again, I want you to see this. Healthy villi, moderate damage, you've lost about 70% of the absorption, straight scar tissue. There's no pain with scar tissue, but you're not absorbing things. Okay? So the good news is it can repair, the bad news is it'll take a while. But it can repair it, but the number one thing you have to do to repair it is quit damaging it more. Okay? That's what we'll talk about, cleaning up the diet. Now,
I don't know how to answer one question you've got there where you say feel better when you don't eat. Well, if I don't eat, I start to go just.
yeah, but there are some people that every time they eat, they get worse off. Every time they eat, it's like either it's their blood sugar or it's like it sits in their stomach or something. They feel better when they don't eat. They know they have to eat, but they feel better when they don't eat. Okay? A lot of eating disorders can come from this. Okay? Now you're saying when you don't eat, you get lightheaded. That's blood sugar. Okay?
Blood sugar.
That's blood sugar. So
So how
now
do you
this is
answer
my
that?
nephew. He doesn't look like me because he's from my wife's side. My wife is from Japan. They did 2 months of steroid creams, and this is what he looked like. They finally broke down and did nutrients, and in 2 weeks, this is what he looked like. And by the time he was 1, this is what he looked like. Wow. Okay. Now, when you fix digestion, amazing things happen, especially with young kids. Here's another one. In Japan, you can look at the dates here, from February 24th through March 13th. See, that's about 2.5 weeks, folks. Do you see a difference? Wow. Now, we showed this, and we had another person in Japan, and I love it when they give the before and after pictures. Wow. These are actually pictures Dr. Wallach was using in his presentation. He was asked to give a presentation in front of the United Nations. He was preparing this, and he came to Japan, and he showed us this. And so he started to use some of these pictures in that presentation. You see this? That's about 3 months worth. You see a difference there? Now, the child is older. It's going to take a little longer to repair. Okay, when you're younger, your body's more, when it's in growing mode, it's in a quick repair mode. So you can see a lot of things repair very quickly. And they actually took both sides of his face and his body, and this is his back. This boy's life has changed when you give the body what it needs.
Are you allowed to tell us what that is? Because I have that in my family.
Okay, whenever we talk about, I'm not
No,
going
you're
to
not
address
allowed
this,
to
okay?
describe
Now,
it.
let me, because I understand the question. Whenever we talk about diseases, we can talk about when I listen to Dr. Wallach, because Dr. Wallach deals with diseases. We can't talk about products. Okay, so you notice this is in a category I haven't given you anything we do for support. That's intentional. Okay, so but when you deal with digestion, can your body change? Absolutely. And following Dr. Wallach's recommendations, we've seen some amazing results. Now let's get on to step 2, which was use the appropriate pack. And this one should be very easy for you. Everybody should know these by heart. Okay? When the company started to put these together for us, when they came out with the BTT, they started to put this together. These were some of the elements that fueled the growth where the company's grown 9-fold. We've been around as a company 18.5 years, but 90% of the people, 90% of the sales, 90% of the organization has happened in the last 4. Now, hard tissue, what do we use for hard tissue? Healthy bone and joint pack. Soft tissue, healthy brain and heart pack. Now, it could be called the healthy bone, joint, and muscle pack. It could be called the healthy brain, heart, lung, eye, and skin pack. But the names get a little long.
Yeah.
So it's just, those 2 you need to know. The next one's a giveaway. For blood sugar, we use the healthy blood sugar pack. For digestion support, we use the healthy. These are giveaways. It's real easy. On your sheet, you'll see something that'll look like this. And you'll notice that there's a place you can put a check mark. Based on what their scores are, you can just check. You've got this category and this category. And if there's no symptoms, does that mean they don't need nutrition?
No.
What does it mean? They need the 90 essential nutrients right in the middle. Everybody needs the 90. And it's to the 90 that you see there's a couple of add-ons for each one. Sometimes it's just one add-on. You can substitute the 90 for whatever products fit them the best. Some people don't like the taste of the BTT 2.0. That's okay. We have tablets that are coming. You can use the classic. You can use the liquid tangy tangerine. There's a lot of different substitutions you can make. Sometimes you need to make substitutions because they have food allergies, Or maybe they're sensitive to carbohydrates, and that's okay to make substitutions. There's nothing wrong with substitutions. Everybody needs the 90, but it can vary from person to person on which product combination gives them that 90. Okay? If they're allergic to fish, we probably aren't going to give them fish oil. Okay? But the core of everything we do is always the 90 essential nutrients, and we're just going to add on other petals to the flower, as I call it. The core doesn't change, but petals to the flower will change according to a person's needs and wants. And some of them are wants, and it's okay. Now, why is this important? Why do we need this? And part of the reason, and this is part of a little training, what's the difference between vitamins and minerals? Anybody know? Vitamins and minerals, we hear about them all the time, different categories. What's the difference? Yeah. It's not that one starts with a V and one starts with an M. Sure, that's true, but that's not the difference. The difference is plants can make vitamins and minerals have to be absorbed from the soil. Plants can't make iron. They don't make copper. They don't make magnesium. They don't make calcium. If those minerals aren't in the soil, it's not in the plant. Do you know most spinach today doesn't have detectable levels of iron? In the United States, they did a study in 1999. They found no iron in 95% of the spinach. How can you tell if your spinach has iron? The stalk of the leaf, the spinach leaf, is supposed to be red. If it's green, low iron. But since we're talking about iron, this is something important. If you need iron, do you eat your fork? You know, you're getting a little anemic. What we'd like you to do is lick that spoon a few more times, right? Does that work? No. Why? Because the iron in your fork, even if you grind that up and put it on your food, doesn't absorb very well. Okay? We talk about, some people call it metallic. We're just going to say it's got a bigger molecular size, and how it works in the cycle of life, how it's supposed to work, is in the soil, we have bacteria that breaks down the minerals, leaves them in salt crystals that then the plants absorb, and we eat the plants. Soil bacteria is vital for healthy plants. Just like healthy, good bacteria in our digestive tract is vital for our absorption too. It's very similar there, folks. What happens if we use chemical fertilizers and pesticides and kill off the bacteria? We get weaker plants, and the pharmaceutical companies that sell chemical fertilizers and pesticides love this. Because like, yeah, weaker plants get eaten by the bugs more, we get to sell more pesticides. And pesticide sales have gone up 1,500%. Whoa. Okay? This is the way it's supposed to be. Here's a picture from an electronic microscope. You can see here are the good bacteria in the soil. Here is an example of the salt crystal they leave behind. This is what the plants are after. The plants actually release from the roots a very weak acid, not strong enough to break down rocks, but it is strong enough to break down salt crystals. That's what they're after. And when you have those that have been broken down by the bacteria and absorbed by the plants, and you have a whole humic shell deposit of these ancient plants, the best stuff is so absorbable that if you put it in a petri dish where you put water in it, and water evaporates through it, you actually see crystals come out on the top. And we take, typically once a year, we take a trip to the mine where you can actually see this, collect some of it, and if you've gone there after a little bit of rain, you'll see it'll look like frost or snow that'll be covering this. Now this is a very rich piece that'll pull up really that clear yellowish color. Anybody know what color our plant-derived minerals are? If we get the plant-derived minerals, kind of that clear yellowish color, right? Sometimes it'll be a little brown if you got a higher iron content, but you're going to see a lot of that color come through. That's how you know you've got the best minerals. Okay, easiest to extract equals easiest to absorb. That make sense?
Yep.
No acid required. No hot water. That's evaporation that pulls that out, folks. That's the stuff we need. And when you think of minerals, I mentioned the periodic chart. The blue here are all of those elements, the minerals that are included in our plant-derived minerals. That's one of the things that makes us different. We have more cofactors for the body to be healthy. Now, you'll see over 70 there. We talk about essential minerals, we talk about 60. What's the difference? We know there's over 77 naturally occurring in the human body. We don't know what all of them do yet. So as science progresses, you might hear about 62 essential minerals or 65 essential minerals. We don't adjust what's in that deposit, we just extract it. And our body does the best it can with what we give it. The beautiful thing is when it's water soluble, it's also as safe as can be. Right? So we have the best safety factor. Now, again, the core of what we do is the 90 essential nutrients. And I want you to understand that our 90 essential nutrients has an incredible value in the products. You could probably take our classic, our Tingy Tangerine, our BTT, and go to any health food store and try to put it together, and you won't be able to do it at that price. When we tested it before, we took the classic, and we went to a health food store. It was over $300 for what we paid 40, I think it's 42 now, in the United States. Okay? We get a better deal. I've had doctors that actually were running clinics that looked at the BTT and said, I love this product. I'm going to make my own version. They call up their manufacturers, and their manufacturers will say, we can't get all those ingredients. We can give you a little over 70%, but it's going to cost you twice what you can buy it from Longevity for, and you have to buy it 1,000 bottles at a time. And so now they use Longevity products. Right? And remember, we focus on the 90 essential nutrients, but we do have substitutions. Our Healthy Start Pack 2.0 is our best, most popular package, but it's okay if you're using a substitution. So whenever we're going to talk about packages from here on out, you can use those substitutions. Again, when somebody's filled out that form, have them check what box or multiple boxes. And we actually have CEO packs that combine all of the categories called the CEO Combo Pack. Now, let me also mention some add-ons. We don't just have the basics, we can have some advanced things. And sometimes you need that. For example, if someone has a thyroid issue, you will want to go with the extra Ocean's Gold. That's just part of our thyroid support. Okay? For blood sugar, for example, you can use the ACT and the body trim between meals. Extra minerals anytime throughout the day will help. These are some of the add-ons here. Now, this one isn't written down here because this was a form that we created in America. This is from the New Zealand product line. So if you want to take pictures, this is a good one to take a picture of. And we'll talk a little bit about some of these. Liquid glucogel is not the same as the glucogel capsules. Okay? I have some people that are using the glucogel, the liquid glucogel, but they're not rebuilding joints because the liquid glucogel doesn't have the nutrients to rebuild bone matrix. Liquid glucogel is great for inflammation and works quick. It's an inflammation support product. Okay? The capsules are a rebuilding support product. That's why the package includes the capsules. Now, Fucoid Z, some people, if they are avoiding glucosamine for whatever reason, sometimes there's a dietary recommendation, they don't want to use shellfish. They're actually starting to use more of the shellfish-free ones, but there is a Fucoid Z, which is actually a stem cell support product, and can be a crossover to multiple categories, but that's one of them that can fall under the hard tissue. Okay, Fucoid Z, a fucoidin product. ACT and body trim are great energy drinks that you use between meals for blood sugar support. Between meals are the best. You have stable energy levels, sugar levels between meals. You tend not to be as hungry at the meal times. Okay? And if you have kids that have blood sugar imbalances, such as concentration issues or control issues at school, sending them to school with the sweeties. We actually have a number of doctors that do this. They have their patients send their kids to school with the sweeties and a mineral caps in their lunchbox. And if they can take something between meals, they go with one of the energy drinks between meals. And you see a world of difference in the kids when they have the nutrients necessary for the body to deal with blood sugar. Okay. Plant-derived minerals are amazing. And let me say, if you haven't seen the list, there's actually a list we have of 40 different uses of the plant-derived minerals. Has anybody seen that list? Okay, if you haven't seen that list, we'll have to get that out. Yeah, you've seen that list. We did that many years ago. You can spray the minerals on the skin. What I like to do with the plant-derived minerals, it's a liquid. I put it in another little jar, and this is one from the Veterinary line, just the jar. Inside is just the plant-derived minerals. You just take it out, and I'll use it as a skin toner because the minerals will help restore the pH level of the skin, and they mineralize the skin, help with elasticity support, and you can use it all over the body. If somebody has had heat stroke, they're minerally deficient. They're deficient in electrolytes. They can give an IV, but we find because of the surface area, if you use this all over the skin, you are very, very competitive with an IV as far as results go.
Yeah, but what are you talking about?
Plant-derived minerals, right here. Plant-derived minerals. Here's what it looks like. I'm going to grab a bottle to show you. These are the plant-derived minerals. It looks like this. It says on it, plant-derived minerals. Now, we have flavored versions that are cherry mints or strawberry kiwi mints. When we talk about using it on the skin, don't use the flavored versions.
It's rainforest.
If you're going to cook, any food that you cook that you use salt or vinegar in the recipe, the minerals will work with. You just do a little bit, like a teaspoon. Okay, if you're cooking with, if you ever cook rice, put in a tablespoon when you cook your rice. You'll find your rice tastes better. In Japan, they actually take low-grade rice and make it taste like the high-grade rice when they add minerals to it. I have a friend that just started a non-GMO organic restaurant chain in America. In all of their sauces, they use the plant-derived minerals. This product. They actually have it so you can see all of the ingredients, and they actually have this, along with all of the things they use. This is one of the displays up there.
So cool.
Makes the food taste better, and you get more nutrition in it, okay?
Yeah.
So use this in a lot of things. Use it topically. Use it when you cook. Okay? If somebody's, let's say they're bedridden, or maybe they're even unconscious. I have had people that say, how do I get nutrients into my mother? She's in the hospital on a feeding tube, right? And I can't put anything down the feeding tube. These will absorb through the skin. So I've had people give every 15 minutes they do a sponge bath. And I have some amazing stories with amazing recoveries when you give the body what it needs, okay? Digestive tract is the front door into the body. The skin and underneath the tongue are back doors. And you use the back doors when the front doors are compromised. You can't get in through the front door and the house is breaking down. You don't just give up, you go in the back door. Okay, so be aware of that. Okay? Plant-derived minerals can do some amazing things with the body. So I recommend everybody should be using the minerals. Okay? And one thing to do, you know how Dr. Wallach says 1 pack for every 40 to 50 kilos, right? What we do is say, if you're one of those that money's an issue, and it is for a lot of people, but you could use 2 packs, your budget doesn't afford 2 packs, you use 1 pack and throw in an extra bottle of plant-derived minerals. Okay? So use some extra minerals. Remineralize the body. This will make a big difference. And I put it in the blood sugar category. It crosses over into all the categories, but blood sugar is one of those that mineral deficiencies show up because of the cravings. Okay. Now let's go on to the next one. Soft tissue, an extra add-on, is the immortality for the glutathione support. Remember, glutathione peroxidase is an enzyme in the body that repairs oxidative damage. High glutathione levels will get rid of age spots. Okay? Now this is especially important as we age, that our enzyme systems tend to break down, not be as effective. Immortality can be a great product to add on. Now they originally talked about this with telomere support for longer lives, but it has a lot of crossovers with the glutathione. So understand soft tissue especially, immortality can be a great add-on. And the Pollen Burst Plus is another one that's like a liver support product. Liver support is in soft tissue. Okay, go down to digestion. One of the products you're probably the most familiar with is root beer belly. Is everybody familiar with root beer belly? Yes. Okay, let me say this. It's okay to take more than 1. It's okay to take enough that you don't have smelly gas. That's a sign you've got good probiotics. Anybody know that when the baby is first born, the first poop doesn't smell? there's no bad bacteria. If you want the second, the third, and the 23rd poop not smelling too, you give them probiotics. You can. I've done this with my kids, even after when they're newborns, especially if they're nursing and mom needs a few minutes to get ready and it's time for the baby to eat. I can buy 5 to 10 minutes with the root beer belly. Because I just open it up a little at a time in my son's mouth, and he likes it. And it helps because now when he has a bowel movement, we don't smell it across the room. We have to sometimes go and physically check. Oh yeah, it's time to change the diaper. I think that's a good thing. Instead of having to smell it across the room, right? So if your spouse is throwing a canary in the restroom to see if it's safe to go in there, that can be a sign, folks. More Rupirelli. Okay. Now, if anybody's heard of a detox, you ever heard of a detox or a cleanse? That's part of what the colon FX can help with. Okay, that internal colon detox. Saxy is one that most people don't understand for digestion, but it's one of my favorites, Saxy. And Saxy is a product, let me grab that box too. It's in your packs, yeah. Saxy, especially for you, ought to be a favorite product because it's made with New Zealand blackcurrant, which is the best nutrient transfer on the planet. Okay, it's even better than aloe vera. We use aloe vera with it as well. But what that does is it takes nutrients and helps bring them across damaged villi. Does anybody know you mix the Saxy up, it gets kind of thick, like a thick juice? That's good because that's what helps grab onto nutrients and bring it across. So whenever you're dealing with absorption issues, let's say somebody's got EFA deficiencies and they're taking EFAs but they're not getting the results they want, they think they should be, add the Saxy when they take their EFAs. You'll get better absorption of your EFAs. If you're taking calcium, you're not getting all the results you think you can with calcium, try the Saxy when you take your calcium. In fact, the OsteoFX and the Saxy mixed together taste amazing. So those people who maybe struggle with the taste of the OsteoFX, throw in the Saxy. It'll make a big difference. It's like a berry yogurt. Okay. Immune system, many of you are familiar with Killer Biotic, with Oxybody. You might not be as familiar with Zinc FX. Okay, but that's another one. Colloidal silver is another one. Let me also mention, in digestion, we have hormonal support. Because when digestion is compromised, we get low absorption of cholesterol, and hormones are made of cholesterol, for male hormones and female hormones. So for hormonal support, there's GTO, renamed the Cardio Sticks. And this is a great pre-exercise energy drink. It's probably my favorite pre-exercise energy drink. Healthy testosterone levels means better exercise for both men and women. Right? You want to get more out of your exercise, try this before you exercise. And then Zerafem, fem means female. Okay, that's for female hormonal support. And Zeratest for male hormonal support. Okay. But one of the big things, not a product, but something Dr. Walk always recommends when you deal with hormonal support, is more butter. More egg yolks. Butter and egg yolks. More cholesterol in the diet. Okay. Lots of cholesterol. Now, let me mention this principle here. When we are dealing with people, because people aren't animals, one of the things that people have is the freedom of choice. So regardless of what they should take, people tend to take what they want to take. Regardless of what they should eat, people tend to eat what they want to eat, right? So who is it that goes gluten-free? The people who need to go gluten-free, or the people who choose to go gluten-free?
Choose.
Right? That's why for us, a big principle of our business, again, the business model, is education. We educate, they decide. We educate, they decide. Repeat that with me. We educate, they decide. This is especially true after they go home with products. Have you ever had somebody take a month's supply and 3 months later they still have products left?
Yes.
Are they getting the same results? No. Have you ever had people that are supposed to change their diet, they go home and they keep eating the things that make them sick,
Yes.
Yes.
and they don't get the results they need to, right? Well, what do we do then? Better than us trying to teach them and be the expert, we use the expert, and that's why whenever I'm dealing with digestion, and I'll show you later, I always use the serial killer CD.
Yes.
I always use that CD. I let Dr. Wallach teach them about digestion. And we will be coming out with the serial killers booklet soon. Okay? So there are a number of tools we use. One of my gifts to you today, this presentation, a lot of this presentation that we've done here tonight is on this recording here, the advanced product training that we did at convention. And I have that as a gift for you tonight. Okay. For those people who didn't record this, right? You know. Again, it's not the exact same presentation, it's the one we did at the convention. All right? And for the diehards, I always like to have people get what I call your home study course. And that is one of the media libraries. There's one for the products, there's one for the business. If you will listen to CDs while you drive, you will learn things that we don't have time to teach you here tonight. If your teams will listen to CDs while they drive, they will learn things that you don't have time to teach them. And if they do that, they will not only be more consistent on the products they take, they will probably use more products and probably stay on those products longer. So take advantage of drive time. Anybody have drive time where you're driving in your car? Okay.
Auckland.
Okay. What I suggest you do is when you're working with people, ask them if they have a CD player in their car. Don't just loan them a CD, because more people are thinking, I don't listen to CDs, because they don't listen to them at home anymore. But if they have a CD player in their car, invite them to put the CD in their car, and anytime they drive for the next week, even if it's only 5 minutes, just make sure they turn that CD on. And if they'll listen to the CDs while they drive, they will educate themselves, and you will see amazing things happen. Now, how many have heard dead doctors don't lie? Okay, how many have heard dead doctors don't lie in the last week? Okay, if you haven't heard it recently, let's say it's been more than a few months, I invite you to listen to that again. With the same CD, you'll find because you have, the things in your lives have changed, different things will stand out to you. I've had some people listen to that wasn't on it the first time. It probably was, they just didn't notice it before, okay? And especially after a presentation like this, like you go back and listen to that selenium CD with Dr. Strauser, you're like, oh yeah, that's what they were talking about, right? You'll gain some things that we talked about there. Okay, last one, clean up the diet. Let me go over this because it's more of an issue than ever before. There are 4 principles that Dr. Wallach teaches, and I want you to understand these. Number 1, Dr. Wallach encourages everyone to go gluten-free. Now this is a must if you have digestive issues. If you don't have digestive issues, but you prefer not to get digestive issues, he still encourages you to go gluten-free. Because with hybridized wheat especially, there's a lot of things that damage the digestive tract. Now, I do have people that have gluten intolerance. They go to Europe where they don't allow genetically modified wheat in there. Well, hybridized wheat. Again, they don't call it GMO. But they don't use the same wheat, and as a result, they don't have the same allergies. In the U.S., they have lots of problems. They go to Europe, they don't have problems. That's good. That's the way it used to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. But if you want to avoid that, and you know you have hybridized wheat, how do you tell? If you can look at the farms, wheat that is natural should grow up and bend over. Wheat that is hybridized will be short and not bend over.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have the short wheat that doesn't bend over, it's bigger grains, you know, it's great for production in tons and bushels, but not real great for our digestive tract. Dr. Wallach says avoid that. Number 2, oat-free, especially people with digestive issues. You can have gluten-free oats, Dr. Wallach says, still causes the same problem. Okay? Oats lower cholesterol, and it does that by messing up with absorption. Okay? Last one, low carbohydrate, not the last one, but low carbohydrate. Most people don't realize that. I have a number of people go gluten-free by buying gluten-free pancakes and gluten-free muffins and gluten-free trail mix. And pretty soon they're eating all of these gluten-free donuts and gluten-free cakes, and they're having problems with blood sugar and bloating because they're going on a high carbohydrate diet. Gluten-free does not mean go out and eat a lot of gluten-free grains. It does mean eat a lot of things that don't have gluten in them, like eggs, like vegetables. And that's what Dr. Wallach recommends. Okay, so it's a low carbohydrate diet, not a high carbohydrate diet. And some people don't recognize that. Last one, no high fiber. And I know this goes against what most people have heard for years, because we have taught it for years. Fiber gives you bowel movements, but it is not how we're supposed to get bowel movements. Man is not made to eat raw vegetables. I'm going to say that again. If you listen to serial killers, you'll understand this. Man is not made to eat raw vegetables. In the animal kingdom, there's a lot of animals with better eyesight. There's a lot of animals with better hearing. There's a lot of animals with a better sense of smell. And yes, better digestion. Did you know cows have 4 stomachs?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know why they can eat grass and still produce protein? Because the first stomach is actually a fermentation pot. Dr. Wallach says, biochemically speaking, they're actually meat eaters. They grow their own meat. The grass feeds the microorganisms, and those create the amino acids that feed the cows. You and I don't have 4 stomachs. We have 1. You know, birds actually swallow rocks to grind up the food. They have rocks in their stomachs, not rocks in their brains. That means something. You and I don't. But we're the only species that can cook our food. Preparing food, cooking is helps to break down the food. That starts the digestion process. And now, cooking at high temperatures breaks down nutrients. Okay, if you're deep frying things, it's a very high temperature. If you're doing a pan fry, that's a very high temperature. Sauté is a low temperature. Boiling, stewing, crock pots are low temperature. Low temperature releases the bioavailability of nutrients. A raw tomato versus a stewed tomato, which one do you can get more lycopene out of? Stewed tomato by far, because it's released the bonds that hold on to the nutrients. Now this is why no high fiber, right? There is something in fiber called a they've got phosphates. That's that word, that thing. I need more ink.
Or just sleep.
Yeah, when you have
Cellular.
phytates, that's it. When you have phytates hold on to nutrients, so you don't release them. The reason there's more lycopene out of a stewed tomato isn't because a stewed tomato has increased the lycopene. It's the same as the raw. You've just broken down the phytates that it's released it. Okay? When you eat raw vegetables, you get bowel movements, but raw vegetables, the cellulose, the crunchy stuff, the phytates, scratch up the villi. You don't want to scratch up the villi.
What if you put them in a blender?
If you put them in a blender, you blended them up physically, but not chemically. So you have smaller pieces of fiber, but you still have fiber. If you want to break down the phytates, you blend it up and then cook it. If it turns into a soup, you're fine. Heat will break that down. Okay, and that's why, coming back to it, we talked about bowel movements. If you're really plugged up, you're extremely constipated, you go to the hospital, what do they give you? Whole wheat toast? Celery? They give you magnesium. Magnesium is what creates bowel movements. But we don't talk about magnesium, we talk about fiber instead, because if you took magnesium, they couldn't sell as many high blood pressure medications.
They can't make that.
Okay? So understand, if you want bowel movements, you need more magnesium. And you take a magnesium. Don't use fiber for bowel movements. And now a raw salad on occasion, when you've got good digestion, is not a bad thing. But if you have bad digestion, it is a big thing. And I've had people who have gotten some results and kind of plateaued. Then they started to cook their vegetables, steam, stew their vegetables, and suddenly their results increased. And I've seen that time and time and time again. Okay? In Japan, they always know raw rice versus stewed or cooked rice. Which one is easier to digest? The cooked. Cooked rice versus a rice porridge where even the kernels have started to break down. Which is easier to digest? The porridge, right? It's the same thing. Raw vegetables versus steamed. Steamed are easier to digest. Steamed vegetables versus stewed, something cooked in a crock pot. They're even better even easier to digest. You want to be easy on your digestive tract, especially when you have digestive damage.
Is there anything you lose if you cook things for a long time, like the vitamins they talk about?
Yeah, it depends on the temperature. See, and that's where the temperature is. If you're staying underneath 70 degrees Celsius, you're probably not losing any nutrients. Okay. Now, when you say a long period of time, let's say you're going to cook that for 7 weeks, that's probably getting some oxidation, right? If you're talking about a few hours with it, not a problem. You're getting up to 100 degrees, you're still maintaining most of the nutrients. Okay, and that's part of the, if you may have heard, Longevity absorbed a food storage company. In the preparation, they try to keep everything underneath 100 degrees Celsius, ideally underneath 90 degrees Celsius. And they'll maintain 98% of the nutrient value of the food if they do that. Okay, but if you bake something, do you ever bake at temperatures above 100 degrees? You're going to break down more nutrients. If you do a pan fry, does that get above that temperature? If you do a deep fry, does that get above that temperature? That's when you're destroying those nutrients. That's what Dr. Wallach says. He doesn't say pan fry anything. He says saute. In butter, low temperatures. Don't let the butter turn brown. Yes?
What about pressure cookers?
Pressure cookers is going to speed up the cooking process. Right now, pressure cookers, you can actually get temperatures above 100 degrees. Right? But you're cooking it for a shorter period of time. So, I don't know, you're going to maintain more of the nutrients there because they're forcing pressure in. I haven't done a comparison of pressure cookers versus like crock pots to see what the nutrient difference is. But you're probably going to get more in a crock pot, I would guess. But you still get more out of a pressure cooker than, say, deep fry for sure. Okay? Yeah, that's just one. We're trying to get as much nutrients we can. But understand, and this we're going to go back to science, what field of medicine has the best science? Veterinary medicine. And in veterinarian medicine, if they grow really good crops, does that mean they don't supplement?
No.
They always supplement. What does that mean for you and I?
We always supplement.
We should always supplement. So get the nutrients you need out of your supplements and supplement your supplements with good food. Don't expect you're going to get all the nutrients you need out of your food no matter how good you cook. No matter how good of a produce you choose. It's great if you get extra nutrients, but it will never be enough. We have never seen a case where you can get all 90 just from the food you eat without supplementation. That's why farmers always supplement. And they put out salt blocks for their animals. We didn't talk about salt, but I want you to understand salt is critical because salt is necessary for the creation of stomach acid. And if they can get you to use lower salt, they get you to have lower stomach acid. NaCl is the chemical name, the chemical symbols for salt, sodium chloride. HCl is hydrochloric acid or stomach acid. Anybody see something in common there? Without salt, you don't make stomach acid. That's why we need salt. And in fact, they say salt is bad for you, salt is bad for you, salt is bad for you, because they find that people that are sick like extra salt. That's actually your body's attempt at treatment, folks. If somebody has high blood pressure, your body's craving minerals, it will like more salt. Cutting the salt doesn't bring down the high blood pressure. And I can show you a graph, we'll do this on Friday, where we can actually see in Japan, they reduce the amount of salt in their diet from 15 grams a day down to about 10 grams, 1/3 reduction. The amount of high blood pressure has gone up 3-fold. Okay? Salt does not cause high blood pressure. You need salt. Now, what type of salt's the best? Mineral salt. Stuff with more minerals, whether it's sea salt or Himalayan salt or... Can I share something with you? Wait, no, I'm going to do this, and you're going to talk to Rob, and he's going to call the U.S., and they say, we don't have that product yet, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. Just understand. They don't have that product yet because we're in development. We're in development of Dr. Wallach's mineral salt. We'll take our minerals and add it to salt. So you get a mineralized salt. So that's something that we're in development with. But I don't know if it's right. But it's going to be 3 months or 4 months or what. But we're in development of that product. Yeah, question about it.
Sugar is a carbohydrate, and the brain needs glucose.
No.
But,
No. The brain does not need glucose. The brain uses energy, and glucose is one form of energy. There's another form of energy called ketones. And if you've ever heard of a ketogenic diet, which is a high-fat diet, you get your body off a glucose burn onto a ketone burn, and your brain activity goes way up. The brain needs energy, yes. Does it have to be from carbohydrates or sugar? No. And your body can actually take protein and create blood sugar out of protein, and create blood sugar out of carbohydrates. But there's no such thing as essential carbohydrates. You can be fine on a low carbohydrate diet.
So I understand
Right. Sugar is a carbohydrate, right? Sugar is a carbohydrate, for sure. So carbohydrates include sugar, pastas, grains, breads. Okay. They're easy to store, easy to make, but they're actually not essential for the body. And when you have a blood sugar imbalance, you actually have, has anybody heard of a glycemic index?
Yes.
If you've heard of a glycemic index, that's how quickly it affects your blood sugar. You want things that have a low glycemic impact, right? It's not just the amount of carbohydrates, the type of carbohydrates will make a difference. But even though some things have a low glycemic index because they have fiber, if it's damage in the villi, Dr. Wallach doesn't recommend that. Now, he doesn't always share all these parts of the message the first time he does a presentation. You hear dead doctors don't lie, you don't get all of this. That's why we have follow-up information, right? And that's why we're teaching you, because these are the things that we're finding are standing out in our society today that people don't understand. That's why we're sharing it with you. And that's why it mentions it here. So maybe on the low carbohydrate, we ought to put a parenthesis and put sugar in there, right? And I can probably make that adjustment on the PDF. Yes?
Could you just briefly touch on creatine? I'm in the fitness industry.
On creatine?
Creatine. I've got all these young boys, all of these.
Okay, creatine is a protein, right, or an amino acid. And when we talk about creatine as a supplement, you're talking about bodybuilders or weightlifters, right? It's a muscle supplementation. Amino acids are great for the muscles, right? That's wonderful. However, sometimes you will hear creatine on a medical side where there's creatine in the urine, and that's a sign of a kidney failure. Your kidneys are breaking down, you're losing protein in the urine. And let me say this, Dr. Walk says if you're losing protein in the urine, you don't take less protein. You take more protein. Losing protein in the urine and taking less protein is like saying, look, your car has is leaking air. Don't put any more air into the tire, and eventually the leak will stop. It will, but those people go on dialysis because now it doesn't work, right? Yeah. So to understand, creatine is very important, but understand it's not everything. You still need the 90. And one of the things that we find, if you've seen the videos with Gene Nelson and some of the bodybuilders, they've been taking nutrients for the muscles, they've been missing the nutrients for the bones. So we haven't talked a lot about extra nutrients for the muscles, the amino acids, right? We haven't talked a lot about that. We've talked more about the bone health. But yeah, amino acids are great. Creatine's great. Proteins are great. Whey protein is great. And one of the things we're actually looking for, and if you have connections, we'd love to hear them. We're actually looking in some of the product development for grass-fed whey and cream from New Zealand that we can use in the products. Because you guys have the best dairy industry. Did you know that?
No, it's terrible. I live in the middle of it. It's toxic and terrible.
Well, it's a lot better than a lot. It's hard to find. They've actually done studies. Grain-fed beef has a lot different nutrient
I
levels.
understand that. Oh, we're feeding
So we
heaps
need
of palm kernel oil. Fiber and supplementary feed.
Okay.
Heaps of grain now.
The way you used to do it was ideal.
There are
Yeah, but
some.
it's getting contaminated, right?
Yeah.
But if you have good source, you know people let us know. We are actually sourcing more of those ingredients for use in the products.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yes,
gonna say.
Okay, I'm sorry?
When you're organic, so.
Okay, can I get a list and contact
It's
information?
growing over biological.
Okay, I'm not
farms.
writing that down right now. Let's ask you a few more questions.
I know that margarine's bad for you, but we have a lot of supposedly good spreads that like are made out of avocado and olive oil.
Okay, let's talk about oils. Can we talk about oils for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the truth of oils. Good fats go bad quickly. Avocados you mentioned, okay? You cut an avocado, how long before it starts to oxidize? Yeah, is it 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
No.
What if we take the oil of an avocado? Do you think that stays fresh for weeks and weeks and weeks, or do you think that could oxidize too?
Very quickly.
Fish, let's talk about fish. Everybody's heard fish oil is good for you, right? If you take a fish, you catch a fish, it's fresh, you buy it from the market, it's fresh, you put it on your kitchen counter, you put it on your kitchen table, how long is that going to stay fresh for? 3 weeks?
Like a few hours.
Yeah. In Japan, the law is, on their sushi, they do the sushi bars, right? 40 minutes. 40 minutes from preparation. If somebody hasn't eaten it, they have to throw it away. Good oils go bad quickly. Let me repeat that. Good oils go bad quickly. Let's talk about olive oil. Dr. Wallach says if you squeeze the olive, you can use the oil. If someone in another country squeezes the olive, even if it was extra virgin, cold press, and all of that, any exposure to oxygen has started the oxidation process. That's the problem with a lot of fish oils. on the market. They have started the oxidation process, even if they're cold pressed. Now, cold press means less heat, less oxidation, but it doesn't mean no oxidation. You know what Longevity does for no oxidation? No oxygen.
Yeah.
They do all of the extraction of the oils and the encapsulation of the oils in an oxygen-free environment. And that's how we get our EFAs.
What about krill oil?
Krill oil would be the same thing if it's in an oxygen-free environment. Now, krill oil is a good oil. Fish oil is a good oil. And there are some benefits of sometimes one oil over another. Has anybody heard of coconut oil? Right?
Yeah.
Coconut oil is a good oil if it hasn't oxidized. Now, the thing that makes coconut oil better than a lot of oils is it's harder to oxidize. Not impossible, just harder. Okay? So would Dr. Wallach say cook with coconut oil?
No.
When you add heat, you increase the oxidation. He won't say cook with coconut oil. You know what oil he says to cook with? Butter. Why? Because you can tell if it's safe or not. When it oxidizes, butter turns brown. If it hasn't turned brown, you're safe. That's why he says butter, low temperature. He said he doesn't even call it frying, he calls it sauteed. Okay? So use butter, because you can tell. And the other thing that's great about butter that's not in olive oil, and it's not in coconut oil, and I would never use olive oil, but you know, if you're using coconut oil on something, coconut oil is probably the safest of those oils, but the one thing that butter has that those oils don't have, cholesterol.
Yes.
And you want cholesterol. So that's why Dr. Wallach's preference is to use butter. Now I have some of the scientific advisory board that are actually chefs, and they say when they're doing their cooking and they have to use an oil, they like to use grapeseed oil because of the antioxidants. It'll help prevent that oxidation. But not completely, just mostly, right? Okay. So that's the discussion on oils. Olive oil is touted as a healthy oil because it has no cholesterol. Not actually because it helps people live longer. And the statistics on people who use a lot of olive oil is they have more heart disease, not less. The world-renowned scientist on olive oil died at 50, around I think the age of 51 in his 50s from a heart attack. Dr. Wallach says don't use olive oil. Now people say, what about other oils? And they'll list a whole bunch of them. Avocado oil. Well, did you know the pit in an avocado is an antioxidant?
Yeah.
That's why if it still has the pit attached, it doesn't oxidize. You remove the pit, it starts to oxidize a lot faster. Okay, so will avocado oil have some antioxidants that olive oil doesn't have? Yeah, it's possible. But Dr. Wallach still wouldn't recommend that. Okay, he would say butter. Wherever possible, use butter. That's what he would say.
Butter's got butyric acid or something.
Well, if you get clean butter, it's not. Okay, but understand, here's the other thing. Remember Dr. Wallach's research? They thought initially that all the animals in the zoos were dying from pollution. But he came back and said, actually it's not pollution, it's nutrients deficiency, right? Our bodies have repair mechanisms for a reason. They have antioxidant systems for a reason, okay? If you wanted to say, I want to avoid all oxidation, you'd have to avoid oxygen. Those people don't live as long. So you get oxygen and you get antioxidants with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We need nutrients. Can we avoid all damage in life? Probably not, and live on this planet. Right? But that's why we need the nutrients. So do the best you can. There's some damage that's more damaging than other damage. But just do the best you can. He says always avoid trans fatty acids, avoid margarine. You know, it's the good food, bad food list. Right? And that's why it's included here. But this, we just wanted to make sure here that we went over those 4 big things. Because that's what people tend to have problems with. Gluten-free for some people equals more gluten-free muffins. And that's not what it means. Okay? Now, here, tools, clean up your diet. I recommend Serial Killers, this Clean Up Your Diet book for everyone. And we'll figure out a way that we can help supply more of those in New Zealand and Australia, because I think they're just great tools for anybody on digestion. Okay? All right. Now, let's just review this really quick. 3 things we do, what are they? Identify the category or the tissue that's breaking down. Okay, when you're talking to somebody who doesn't understand Dr. Wallach's message, that's why I put the parentheses, because they don't understand what a category is. So identify what's breaking down. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Number 2, take the appropriate nutrition pack and dosage for that. Let me mention this. If you have a blood sugar issue and you're not using sweeties, you're not dealing with the whole thing. Okay? If you have a hard tissue problem, you're using 2 glucogel a day, that's not the recommendation. The recommendation is at least 8. Now understand, labels deal with regulations, not science. So the label might say 2 a day, and Dr. Wallach's recommendation is still 8 a day. Okay? Because the labels are according to the regulations of whatever country we're in. Dr. Wallach's recommendations are according to the science and the results that we've seen. Okay? So there's a difference there. Some people say, oh yeah, I'm doing that healthy bone and joint. I've been using 2 glucogel a day. They're not getting the same results. If your tire's really flat, you have to put enough air in to fill it up. Just a little bit's not going to do it. And that's why dosage is important. Yes?
Talk about the liquid glucogel versus the...
Yeah, we mentioned that. Liquid glucogel is for inflammation support, not rebuilding. You will not rebuild with the liquid glucogel because the liquid glucogel does not have the nutrients necessary for your body's use in rebuilding bone matrix. That has to be the capsules, or you could use the Fucoid Z. That can help with that too. But just understand, the glucogel tends to be a lot more economical than the Fucoid Z. It's a lot lower cost per capsule. Okay? But if you want quick results with inflammation and pain, a lot of pain comes from inflammation, the liquid glucogel is amazing. So you can use those 2 together. But the liquid glucogel will not be a replacement for the glucogel.
What about the other way? Will the tablets help inflammation?
As your bones rebuild, it will help with inflammation, but not as quickly as the liquid glucogel. Okay?
So what would be the actual recommendation on the liquid?
The liquid, 1 to 2 ounces a day for most people, but you could, this is kind of by need, right? Like, if I did something and I've had this happen where I've been flying on airplane to airplane to airplane, been traveling, and I get back and it's just the seats were very uncomfortable. And I've developed some back pain. That's when I would take 2 ounces of liquid glucogel. And typically within 30 minutes, I'm starting to feel a difference. Okay. All right, can we do a little bit of... Actually, let's take a break. Can we take a break, let everybody stretch a little bit? And then we're going to come back in 5 to 10 minutes. Whenever you come back, I'll be here. Okay, are we ready to go? Yeah, let's go. Okay, has it been helpful up to now? Yeah! All right. The next thing we're going to go over is troubleshooting. Okay, you ready for troubleshooting? Troubleshooting is when people are using the products and not getting the results that they'd like to have or we'd like them to have. We do some troubleshooting, right? I want you to understand that troubleshooting is very similar to our basic 3 steps. Essentially, all we're doing is going through these basic 3 steps. Do we know what the tissue is? Do we know what the category is? That's step number 1. 2, are they using the right dose and package? And 3, are they absorbing? You can kind of break it down this way. Are they taking the right products? Are they taking the right amount? Are they absorbing? And that is 99% of troubleshooting. Okay, now this are they absorbing? Sometimes there are food allergies that are uncommon food allergies, but they still have the allergy. And we need to identify and eliminate that food. For example, if they're allergic to fish, we're not giving them fish oil. Now, if they're allergic to shellfish are not fish. Just like seahorses are not horses. Okay? They can be allergic to shellfish and still be okay with the EFAs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, what we do is we go through this and I make sure the right nutrients and the right dosage. And again, we go through this and sometimes you have to make sure that they're doing a couple of the add-ons. For example, thyroid support. Just the healthy brain and heart pack will not be enough for thyroid support. You do need the extra Ocean's Gold. Okay? For some people with digestive issues, just the healthy digestion pack won't be enough. You do need the Saxi. Okay? You'll get better results with the Saxi. And so that's why we're sharing these things with you, because they're common add-ons that make a big difference. All right? There's one other thing that we briefly mentioned, but I want to talk about, and that is blood sugar. Some people with blood sugar issues have to do some substitutions because they can be sensitive to carbohydrates, specifically rice starch. And that's in our BTT 2.0. It's not in our tablets, and it's not in the liquid tangy tangerine. So that's one of the cases where they're sensitive to carbohydrates that we might need a substitution there. All right? Did everyone catch that? Okay, there's another case with digestion. If there's bloating that happens, if there's a blood sugar issue that maybe some people just use the basic 90 and their blood sugar goes up, that means they're sensitive, we need to do a substitution. Okay, if there's bloating that happens, that means a food allergy or sensitivity to carbohydrates, we do a substitution. It's okay to do substitutions. Everybody needs the 90, but some of the people, most people, it's the BTT 2.0. For some people, it's something else, and it's okay that it's something else. Just be aware of that. And help them be aware of that we have to do some substitution. So I look and see from here when they first fill it out to in 30 days when they fill it out again, how is their improvement going? And if the improvement isn't happening like we think it should, or something has gone up, it means either there's something changed in their diet or they need to do a substitution. Okay? Next one, digestion. I look for this one especially. Bloating or gas is a sign of sensitivity to carbohydrates. And that's when they can go on a low carbohydrate diet. Actually, somebody in the break came up that says a former MD, because he said he repented. But he came up and was talking about a ketogenic diet. And I don't know if you've heard about a ketogenic diet. This is like a high-fat, and they don't always talk about it, but it's really a high-fat, high-salt diet. Does that sound like anybody you know? Lots of eggs, lots of butter, lots of salt, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of a Dr. Wallach diet. I really like that. But, if you're seeing bloating and gas, you've got to address the food they're eating. And sometimes you have to address those carbohydrates. So don't be afraid to go on a low-carbohydrate diet, okay? All right, now that's most of the troubleshooting, is just making sure I go through these 4 things to make sure they understand it. When there's digestion issues, we have to be more serious about changing the diet. When there aren't digestive issues, maybe they only have one category, then dietary changes are recommended, but not always necessary in order to start seeing results. You'll get better results if you change the diet. But when there are digestion problems, then it's almost a must that we have to change the diet to help fix those. Okay? You have to eliminate all of the extra damage that's being caused. Okay? Because the villi don't heal quickly. They heal very slowly. Can I give you a little tip on healing villi faster? Okay? I'm going to give you a couple of tips. Okay? I like to give you tips, right? One is the glucogel. Glucogel has lots of collagen. Villi are made out of collagen. So that's a crossover product. It's actually good for both soft tissue and digestion. Okay? Now the glucogel does have rice starch in it. So if they're sensitive to rice starch and the glucogel affects their blood sugar, we might have to do a substitution or just increase their sweeties. Okay? But the glucogel is a great product. Another one that most people don't think of, when there's digestive discomfort, a lot of that can happen from a lack of blood flow, a lack of movement. And you can use a hot water bottle for very little money and a whole lot of results. So don't be afraid to heat up the abdomen. Use a hot water bottle when people are having digestive issues. Okay? Simple trick, but a lot of people I know, they're getting cramping, extreme pain. They go and get some kind of painkiller, and they're sitting waiting in a hospital until they can be treated. When I've actually had somebody at the hospital call me and I say, you see, do they have a vending machine? Does it sell coffee? Don't drink the coffee, but it comes out hot. And it says, just hold it there and heat it up. And by the time it's their turn, the pain's gone and they go home. They don't even have to drink the coffee, it's just the heat, right? Okay, so that's a little tip. Now, remember, sometimes those categories, in the same category, we can have different tissues. Because the same things we use for cartilage and bones, we use for muscles. And that's that diagram of the smooth muscle around the arteries. Remember we said the blood pressure is 2 numbers, an upper and a lower? This is the picture of the smooth muscle that cramps. Okay? Right here. And interestingly enough, Dr. Wallach talks about copper, right?
Yes.
Copper is used right here in this tissue for the elasticity. When you have a breakdown of copper, you have a breakdown of that. Just if you wanted to know. Okay, tell me when you're ready to know. Okay. Now, I am going to show you something here because I'm going to give you a little hint of getting better results. Would anybody be interested in results you could feel right away?
Yes.
Okay, now Dr. Wallach says 90 nutrients, give it 90 days. Don't get off it in 90 days. It's 90 for life, right? But what if we could get results in 90 seconds? Or, well, let's say, 2 minutes, okay? We'll give ourselves a little bit of a budget, right? What if we could get results right away from people? Do you think that would increase do you think that would increase the interest people have?
Yes.
And this is one of the add-ons that I do that I want to share with you today. And I want to show you how I make it. Okay. How many know what this product is? What category is this in?
Hard tissue.
Hard tissue. Now, why is it in the hard tissue category? Anybody know? What does this do?
Anti-inflammatory.
Anti-inflammatory, right? And a lot of the pain around joints breaking down is inflammation around those joints that pushes on the nerve. And this is the natural nutrients that your body uses to clean up inflammation. Omega-6s your body uses to create inflammation. That's why if you have lots of inflammation, Dr. Wallach says no peanuts. There's lots of omega-6s. And omega-3s clean up inflammation. This is unique in that most omega-3s don't absorb through the skin. They've actually made this so it does. They've broken it down. Now, to this, I've opened it up because I am not actually making the CM cream. I am making what I call my turbo cream is what I call it. But I'm going to add a few oils here to the CM cream. And we're going to boost the results. Okay? So is anybody interested in trying a boosted CM cream?
I am.
Yeah. And if you want to call it a boost, CM cream boost, you can. We're going to use 3 oils to this. Yeah, I call them the turbo cream. And we actually, in the U.S., do turbo cream formulas. We actually had a group of about 5,000 doctors that just joined Longevity. Most of them are naturopaths or chiropractors. There are a smattering of MDs, but these are the doctors that were with the Good Herbs line that love natural healing and herbology. And they joined Longevity in the 90 for Life. They love the 90 for Life plus the herbs get even better results. But they were taking their herbs and they started mixing them in the CM cream and got even better results because they could absorb through the skin. So I'm not going to talk about that line so much, but I am going to talk about some of the oils that we can mix. Now let's go through these oils, right? Everybody know Longevity has oils.
Yes. Good oil.
Okay, and they're not just oils, they're not great oils. There we go. In fact, there are companies that sell more oils than we do because they specialize in selling oils. And I had a cousin of mine that had just bought one of their $3,000 packages. Now, this company happens to have its headquarters in Utah, and I'm from Utah. And she bought $3,000. So I took the CM cream over there and made it up because she had all of her oils. I was like, let's use your oils. And it didn't work like we do with our oils. Then I had to add our oils back into it so it would work. So there are a big difference in many of the oils. Now, one of those that's a big difference between our oils and other oils is peppermint. Okay, you don't want things that smell pepperminty. You want things that actually help increase absorption. And that's why you use peppermint. It'll increase blood flow and circulation. And so we're going to get more blood flow, which means more healing to that area. Blood flow is what helps your body deliver nutrients to the area your body needs to rebuild. Inflammation, one of the problems with inflammation is blood that has flowed there, swollen the area, and stagnated. No more nutrient delivery with stagnant blood. You've got to clean that out and get new blood in there. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Has everyone heard in physical therapy they'll do like a ice it and heat it and then ice it and heat it? Because they're trying to clean up that inflammation and force new blood in there. It contracts when it's cold, expands when it's hot, contracts when it's cold. They're trying to force new blood in there. We're going to do that with peppermint. And peppermint also has the added benefit of being a slight stimulus. Now, this is good because if the body has given up on healing something that's been chronic, because it says, I can't kill that, like a saddle sore, when they put a saddle on the horse and the horse tried to heal it and the saddle was still there, so the body gave up, they take the saddle off, the sore doesn't go away until they give some stimulant. They would re-injure it by using a hot iron or something, burn it, and the body, to heal the burn, would clean up the saddle sore too. Okay, it's the same thing they do. Has anybody heard of they use laser treatment for skin blemishes? It's the same thing. Let's burn the skin, and as it heals the burn, hopefully it heals the blemish. Okay? We're going to use peppermint to do that because it's safer and it's a nutrient. So we're going to take it and we're going to do one. Okay. Now, how many was that? Okay. If you said, I say about 10. Now, there is one caution. If the person has high blood pressure, increase in circulation isn't always really a good thing. So if they have high blood pressure, use 5. Okay, but for most of the time it's 10. And I say about 10. Now, okay, so that's to increase absorption, right? Increase circulation. The next one we're going to add is lemongrass. Does anybody know what lemongrass does? What does lemongrass do? Lemongrass is the #1 oil at decreasing inflammation. So we're going to get inflammation support. Now lemongrass is very, very strong, and this is when there's a big difference between our oils and other oils. I have seen a lot of lemongrass that won't work, but it's still lemongrass. You know? Just like you can have fish oil, and have oxidized fish oil and unoxidized fish oil. Lemongrass is nerve. Maybe they use stuff that's older. Maybe they use stuff that's not as concentrated. Whatever they do, not the same effect. Ours is 5 drops. And some of you, can you smell that already? Yeah. Smell that? Yeah. 5 drops. It's very strong. You don't need to use more. And lemongrass is also a little bit of a hot oil, meaning if somebody has very sensitive skin, you want to go easy on the lemongrass. Okay? They take more EFAs, their skin is stronger, they can take more lemongrass. Okay? And the last one, and I'm going to tell you 2, because my favorite one, actually, we don't have in New Zealand yet, but it's on the schedule for next year. They have a schedule when they're introducing the oil. One of my favorites is birch. Birch is a natural pain reliever. Instead, we're going to use marjoram. Marjoram is a muscle relaxer. So somebody was asking me with the no more snores. This is the oil that you can use for that same application. And you just, marjoram, natural muscle relaxer. So Brenda Wright, one of our oil specialists, talks about you take like a bowl of rock salt and you put like 3 drops of marjoram in there and just let it diffuse throughout the room. It helps relax the muscles so that people don't snore. She actually suggests that you do that for about 30 minutes in the room and then close the jar up. Okay, so it doesn't relax them all throughout the whole night, because after 30 minutes they're probably relaxed enough that it makes a difference. But that's one that she talks about. That's on the CD, the Essentials on Aromatherapy. So marjoram we're going to do, again, about 5 drops. Now you notice I was very scientific with that, right? I mean, very scientific, because I scientifically told you about 5 drops. And then we're going to take this and mix it. Now there's multiple ways to mix it. I don't necessarily recommend a blender, but I just put it on and shake it. Now if you have any oils on the outside and you shake it, it will take the paint off the jar. Okay? The oils are really good at that. And then we're going to pass it around. Now, if you look at that, it hasn't mixed extremely well. It's still a little clumpy. So to that, I like to add just a little bit of the plant-derived minerals.
That much up.
How many drops?
13.
10 drops.
Yeah. Well, I just add a little bit, and if I just don't think it's smooth enough, I'll add some more.
Yeah.
That is it.
Who's the last one? Does that take?
Yeah, you notice there's a difference there?
Yeah.
There's a big difference there. It's still not as creamy as I'd like. I might do a little more mineral.
So like you would put birch in when it's available in New
I would.
Zealand?
And if you want to try it with birch, I can put birch in right now because I brought birch. Do you want to try it with birch? Or do you want to try it without birch?
Good.
You know, I'm torn here because I don't want you to think, and this is one of the challenges. When you're building internationally, you're the pioneers for this market. Okay? So you have to use what you have and make the most of it. And to think, oh, we can't do this until we get something from the U.S. will hold you back. When we started, we didn't have birch. Okay? We didn't even have CM cream when we started. But we now have CM cream, we have all of these great oils. So that's why I'm tending to say, let's try it without the birch. Okay? Because I want you to understand how it works even without the birch. Okay? If you want to see what I'll do this. I actually made one up with the birch and the good herbs.
Yeah.
Then for those that want to afterwards, I'll let you try it. When it's already pre-made. So I'm going to pass this around with a Q-tip. Now, if you're dealing with somebody that needs bone support of the inner ear, does that make sense? Yeah, no, we don't talk about diseases, so we're talking about bone support of the inner ear because I'm going to talk about ringing in the ear. But let's say inner ear support. Remember we talked about support?
Yeah. Support.
Then we will use the CM cream on a Q-tip inside the ear. We will not use the CM cream with oils inside the ear. All right? So I'm going to hand this around with the Q-tip. So my recommendation is, so you know, I'll keep the plastic on one side, put this in, pull it out, put it on the back of your hand, then you rub it in and pass it on to the next person. Okay? Do not put it in your ear and put it back in the jar. If you accidentally stick it in your ear, let me know. We'll come up with, I've got an extra Q-tip. Okay, and all we're doing is putting it out. Oh, and that got really good.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, I put in, I think maybe a little.
Too many minerals.
I know. I think we should cut down on the minerals.
Maybe 8.
More minerals. But put in some on your hand. Do you see how much I've done there?
Yep.
And then rub it in. You don't have to be stingy with this. Okay? And just rub it in wherever it hurts. If you're one of those that nothing hurts on you right now, I do joke about this and say if you put it in your eye, you will feel a difference, but I don't recommend
No, you don't tell people.
But that's why I say don't recommend that, right?
Don't
But
drink
do it
it
on
either.
like one side of your neck. Just do it on one side of your neck and see how you feel. If you have something that hurts, rub it on wherever it hurts.
This hurts.
Don't put oils in the ear. No. CM cream you can use in the ear, but not with the oils. The eardrum is just too sensitive. You know, the oils, you don't want that overstimulation. Okay, you don't do that. Now, I have had one person, I will say this, I had one person who, they had a daughter that had punctured her eardrum. Okay, and it punctured it, they were cleaning it out, another child jumped on top, and so she had punctured it, and it would, for years, it was having pus on an infection inside, and they go in and drain it, and they started using the nutrients, started using the CM cream in the ear, the hole started to close up, but it was still having all this pus and inflammation, and they would do a drop of the tea tree, but they wouldn't rub it. They tried to drop it in the ear, and that was too strong, so they just rub it around the outside. And within 2 weeks, there was no more drainage. Wow. So the daughter has regained her hearing in that ear. So we have seen some things, but use it very sparingly around the ears. Okay, the oils are very strong. Now, has anybody? You guys are just in the front row, right? Okay. Anybody starting to feel that? Because I put it on my neck to show you, and I'm feeling it. Are you starting to feel that? Yeah. Those at the back probably aren't feeling it yet because it's up here.
So does that go for supplementation? If you listen to rap music and you use a ring, same thing?
See, the EFA is great for even eardrums, because the eardrums are soft tissue, right? What do we use a lot of extra in soft tissue? Essential fatty acids. What is the CM cream made from? Essential fatty acids. So that's a crossover, both soft tissue and hard tissue. Okay.
So that's really dangerous.
So that's great. Earplugs can be good for DJs too. Yes, question?
Yes, can you tell me what the CM, I forgot what CM is.
Acetomeristoliate.
Right, and on the CM bottle, all the,
It might say fatty acid esters. Yeah, because there's different ways to say that. You know, acetomeristoliate is the chemical name. They're starting using other names. There was a brand name, Celedrin. I'd have to look. I can tell you on the bottle what it's under. On the bottle, the ingredients are.
There's a patent thing with
Yeah, it says Celedrin, blend of estified fatty acid carbons.
Because they patent it, so we don't call it like.
Put the same in the CM cups.
I didn't chew on the.
Yes.
Cleanse your sinuses.
Isn't it good for you? And it smells good too, huh?
That smells amazing.
Can I give you another hint that I like with this?
Yeah.
If you have meetings at night, do you know what peppermint helps with?
Wait.
So we can pass this around. By the time we're done, we can go another 2 hours.
They put that in back.
Really good.
some area that needs some particular, like maybe nerve repair, and I just heard that essential fatty acids are good for that. Will it absorb transdermally?
Most EFAs will not absorb well through the skin. You can absorb a little bit into the skin, but most don't absorb well through the skin. The exception to this is the CM cream. It's actually because they're esters. They're small fragments of these essential fatty acids. They do penetrate much better. Okay, so when you're dealing with nerve support, CM cream can be a great thing. Now, nerves can repair. Okay? They're hard to repair, but they can repair. There's actually a substance in the body called the nerve growth factor. And there are some of our products that we can measure an increase in nerve growth factor when you use that product. Now, those are it's called Neuroliv. It's under the Livinity line. It's Neuroliv is the product. Neuroliv.
Sorry, we can't hear you at the back.
Neuroliv is the product for nerve repair. But it's not here in New Zealand yet. So, but you can use lots of extra EFAs. Those could be a big deal. Yeah, and the CM cream is a big deal. Okay. Other questions? If not, let's move on.
There's a question here.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Just order.
In and out. Come on, my pelican.
You know, I had heard that you guys didn't have it here, so I brought a supply. I didn't bring a big supply.
We're gonna move yet.
First try. Yeah, I was thinking just for Boris, Kurt was saying, you gotta leave this back. Oh, we can't take it to the meeting. Okay, let's go over this. When you're dealing with soft tissue support, one of the big things for soft tissue is oxidation. So antioxidants are a big deal with soft tissue, right? So if you're dealing with eye support, doc wants you at least at 30,000 auric. If you're dealing with immune support, he says 50,000 or 100,000 auric. You know the strongest auric product we have? BTT tablets, which are right now being packaged for New Zealand.
I still got the 190.
It was 160,000, and I don't know. But they're making them for New Zealand, because again, this goes with regulations, not just science, but they have a version making, so that's coming, right? And there are some of these you see in the blue, like the hypothalamus support, that are the good herbs products. They can be coming later, but we definitely deal with the antioxidants there. Okay, let's go on.
Is it 30,000?
For eye support, at least 30,000. There's not a good osteo one here now.
No.
But there is one that I put in a request to keep. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, remember, I mentioned this, but with blood sugar, we deal with often enzymes to help break down the food, and then energy drinks between meals, okay? Remember that, because that can make a big difference when someone's dealing with blood sugar. And did you guys know you've got... Okay, blood sugar support. We use the sweeties to help open up insulin receptors, right? Do you know when we use the sweeties? Anybody know when? Before a meal, right? 15, 20 minutes before a meal, ideally. If you forget and you've started eating, still take it. If you forget and you finish the meal, still take it. But you get the best results if you use it before a meal. Okay, that way the insulin receptors are open before insulin levels go up. Okay. Now, between meals, we use the energy drinks. Okay. And there are additional products that are slated for New Zealand coming in the future that you'll really like. There. One of them's listed.
Is that different, the powder different?
The one that's
Yes,
gluten-free?
it is. It is.
The gluten-free one,
I don't know. I don't know which one, but they're working with one of them. Yeah, it could be. Okay, this is digestive support. There are some products you don't have, but one of them that I want you to remember, magnesium instead of fiber.
Yes.
Magnesium instead of fiber. You're working with bowel movements, you want more magnesium instead of fiber. And I really love the root beer belly. I would encourage you, if you have somebody with digestive issues or you want to see results, root beer belly right before you go to bed tends to make your mornings a little more refreshing. And you can use 2 if you want. But when good bacteria and bad bacteria get together, sometimes there's an increase in gas because they fight. Right? That's why a low carbohydrate, low sugar to starve the bad bacteria is a good strategy along with increasing the good bacteria. Okay. Well, folks, we've gone through most of it. Let me end, and this is the end of the official training, but let me end with a gift. And this is the training that we did at the convention, the advanced product training at the convention that has a lot of what we talked about tonight. Now, tonight's was geared for you. So you won't hear talk about in New Zealand we have this, and there will be a few products mentioned that you don't have, but the principles will be the same. Is there anybody who would like a free copy?
Yay!
I'm going to ask a few people for some help on that, if you wouldn't mind.
one each.
One each. And ideally, do one per, if you can, one per couple, if there's anybody in couples, just because we're just a few sharing.
Better in person,
Well, you know, what you get in person that you don't get on the CD is that turbo cream. Yeah. So anybody feeling a difference with that already? More on this side than this side, right? Where's the CM cream right now? How far back is it made it? Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I really got into States. Provider over in Sedona.
Okay. In the interest of time, on this side, I'm going to pass around my American version.
Can we get a copy of that PowerPoint?
If you want to copy the PowerPoint, yeah.
Yeah.
Would anybody like to know how to use this long distance?
Yeah.
Like across Auckland?
Yes.
If you can do it in person, you can write it in, but we actually have created this as a PDF.
Oh, well done.
So when you have the PDF, there's actually the very first page. It's 5 pages on the PDF. The first one's an instruction on how to save it, because you can take it and save it on your computer and put your name and information. You type it in one area, it automatically transfers to the other areas. So you can send it to them with your information in it. If you'll notice these sections here that says my favorite add-ons are, okay, because there are products you have that aren't listed here, you can add the New Zealand products here for those categories, right? Or if there's something that you think really works, we come up with a new product, right? The Turbo Cream, already prepackaged, you can put that here and send it to someone. You can also put on your favorite tools here when we talk about tools, or a website. For example, if you have a team website or your own personal email address or anything else you want to do, this is made so you can customize it for you. Okay? And if you'd like this in a PDF form, anybody like this in a PDF form?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to give, there's a couple ways that you can get it. One of which, you can get it from our team website. Now on our team, if you send anybody to our site, they can sign up there, but make sure they put in your name and information and you'll still get credit for it, okay? 80% of the stuff people get credit for. But you don't have to get it from our site. You can get it on your own, and if you want just an email one, here's an email address. Just email her and say, I want an email copy, and you get it and you put it on your team site. So people go to your team site. Okay? Or you send it out yourself. So that's one of the ways. You can just email there and ask for it. Somebody asked about nutrition and pregnancy. I did a write-up. We went through a year of fertility treatments with no results. We now have 3 kids with no fertility treatments. And I wrote up some of the things we did. And if you want that copy, if you email there, her name is Carolee that does that. She'll send you a copy of it. She's really good at indexing. She's amazing.
So what do we ask for?
You're asking for, this is called the 3 Steps to Health PDF. 3 Steps to Health PDF. You want that. If you want the write-up for nutrition pregnancy, ask for the write-up on nutrition pregnancy. But those are the 2 resources that you can get. Okay, now that's a PDF. All right? Question. Oh, for those on our team website is wallachonline.com, and you go under multimedia for downloads. You can see that, where it'll have the download say 3 Steps to Health, and you can download the PDF there.
I'm not someone, I don't think they're getting enough of the sweeties. Is there some way to tell when a person needs more sweeties?
Yes, good. With sweeties, this is one, and there's some products that are this way. The dosage isn't dependent on weight, it's dependent on the person's situation, right? For most people, it's 2 sweeties before each meal. Young kids, 1. But some people, if they're not getting the results you think, or there's absorption issues, 3 before each meal or 4 before each meal isn't a bad thing. The truth is, the sweeties will depend on the amount of food they eat more than their weight. Okay? So if you're having a small meal, very small meal, or snack, 1 might be enough. A larger meal, you might need 3. If you're going to an all-you-can-eat buffet, you're going to eat a lot, you might want to do 4. The more carbohydrates you have, the more sweeties you need. That's why we talk about low carbohydrate. If you can reduce the carbohydrates, reduce the sugar, you're going to tend to need less sweeties. But that's a great question.
And so if there's a meal with no carbohydrates, then
You still might need some, because the question is, until you're in ketosis, there can still be insulin resistance. Because remember, your body can turn both proteins and amino acids into sugar, blood sugar, right? Fats turn into ketones more. Okay, good question. Yes?
So if you're diabetic, so you need the sweeties all the time, is there such a thing as the chromium and the vanadium will actually build up? Or?
Now, this is a good example of rephrasing the question.
Yes.
Okay. Because the question actually had a disease and a product together. And so we're going to separate those, right? So if you need blood sugar support, Are you going to need blood sugar support forever, or will there become a time when you don't need it anymore? And the answer is, you're probably going to need it. Well, do you need the 90 essential nutrients forever? It's probably going to be the same. However, as you get better, you may need less, right? Has anybody heard of a concept called a loading dose? Or a therapeutic dose, okay? You will use more to rebuild than you need to maintain. So when you're in the rebuilding mode, or they're trying to get better results mode, you're going to use a higher dose. When you get to the results you like, you can use a smaller dosage to maintain that. However, in life, things happen. Our diets change. We have more stress in our environment. Somebody continues to get genetically modified food that destroys the digestive tract. Sometimes you have to get you kind of have to get aggressive again and do a higher dosage. Right? It happens. So don't be afraid that you vary your dose according to the results you get. You'll do great for a time, you can cut it back, you're doing fine, then you might, if things feel like they're not doing as well, you can increase your dose again and rebuild more, okay? That's okay.
So in terms of guiding yourself as to how to drop back to a maintenance dose, you just have to go down until you get not really.
Typically, what the rule of thumb is, if you like the results you're at, you don't need any more improvement, you go to about half dosage, okay? But if you go to half dosage and you fall backwards, you increase your dosage. And it's just about how we feel. Now, Dr. Wallach doesn't cut back to half doses. Because he says, my body, my health is worth it. The crusade is worth it, that he takes the full dosage. Now, is there anybody here, and this goes, we're going to do a little bit of a talk about the business tying into product uses. How many here are using more products today than they did when they started? Okay, that's a good thing. Now here, next question. How many of you earn more money would like to use even more products? Okay, that's also a great business to be in, but that's one of the reasons we need you to build better businesses so you don't have to cut back. Right? I have somebody, we ask this in meetings all the time, how many of you are using more than 150 a month? And the hands go up, right? More than 300 a month. More than 500 a month. More than 1,000 a month. And we still see hands, and we stop there. But I have people using $3,000 a month because they love it so much that they love the results, and they find they spend less on their food bill when they're having more nutrients, and they feel better, right? And they can do it because they're making 20 grand a month or more in the business. So they don't worry about $3,000 a month in the product. So let me encourage you, if I can encourage you, in addition to getting the 90 essential nutrients, get a little more vitamin M in your life. Vitamin M, right? Everybody knows that. In addition to your healthy bodies, get a healthy wallet so you can use more products. All right? Now, sometimes when I have people in financial need, I'll even sponsor them on the products. But let me say this: if you give the products to people who choose not to buy them, sometimes they choose not to take them. And I have given products away that they didn't use, right? So I will give conditions when I give away products. My one condition, if I have a family member, for example, I say, you listen to this CD and then come back to me. Because it's not the person who needs the products that take them, it's those that want them. Okay? If they won't at least do the education on their own, the chances of them taking the products are lower. So make sure you work on that education. Now another thing, another principle is those people that are joining you in the crusade for the business will tend to be great product users because they'll fall in love with the message. So leading with the business is not a bad way to share the products too. But I say, take the focus off you and put it on them. What is it that this person is most interested in? And you'll hear about the coffee shop interview, about identifying the need. But until the person's mind is open, until they're open and receptive, until they're willing to play catch, you can pitch it to them all day long, and they keep dropping the ball. And worst case scenario, they feel like you're throwing things at them, not to them. Here's a phrase I use. If you chase them, they will run. Don't be a chaser. Be an educator. So I want you to practice a line with me. Okay? Because we need to give people space. You ready for this? Yes. I don't know if this is for you or not. I don't know if this is for you or not. I don't know if this is for you or not. I don't know if this is for you or not. And I like to follow that up with, I don't know if this is for you or not. That's a decision for you to make. Because I'm not going to chase them. I have too much on my plate for me to chase anybody. Right? I don't know if this is for you or not. That's a decision for you to make. But I work with a doctor that specializes in helping people like you. Now, we'll train more about the business, but that's just one of the things, right? I don't know if this is for you or not. That's a decision for you to make, but I'd really love to work with you. And if you get even half as excited as I am, I think we could have a lot of fun with this. Right? So we're inviting them, we educate, and they decide. All right? That's why of all the skill sets that you will learn this weekend, the invite is probably the most important skill set.
Yes.
Okay, now once they're interested, especially in health, knowing how to walk through a form and do a simple system can be very, very valuable. But the most important part of how we do this business is how we build a team of people. Okay? And then we can use the system. Because a system that works but you have very few people doing it gives small success. A system that works with you have big teams doing it gives a big success. Right? And here, when you're pioneers in the market, you need to be the leaders in creating those teams. Okay? And we have lots of opportunity for you to become leaders. As longevity expands, as Dr. Wallach gets more and more notoriety, you're finding more people that find out about him overseas in countries we're not even open in. And you have probably as many connections internationally from New Zealand as any country out there. I mean, I can't believe how many different languages I hear just going to lunch today. I don't see that in Utah nearly as much as I see it here. So you guys are on the cusp of international expansion. And you're one of the few international countries with ties that actually speaks English that you can understand the stuff they're talking about in America. Because I go to Japan, they're not using the same English information. Okay, now sometimes you have to translate a few things, right? Most of that's not involved with nutrition, though, right? You don't need to know the difference between a trunk and a boot. I had to learn that. You know, because in America, a boot is a boot that you wear, right? You know, like especially when they said, put the pram in the boot, and it's a I didn't know what a pram was, right? I'm like, 2 words I don't know.
You know, junk in your trunk.
Yeah.
Junk in your boot.
I remember coming to a meeting with Dr. Wallach here, and we were telling people it's on the 2nd floor. There's an elevator over here, and everybody went to the stairs. We have an elevator or the stairs. Somebody says it's a lift. Oh, a lift, right? A lift. Right? So, and it was funny because I had my sister-in-law who she's Japanese, but she went to school in America, so she understands English. But she comes over. We were in Australia at this time, and she says, "Wow, this is the strangest country. They have one of the strangest greetings that I've ever heard." So it's amazing. And they say she says they keep wishing that I have a good death. What? Well, they keep saying good die, good die. Like, I hope you die well. That's what she thought. I was like, no, they're saying good day.
Good day, mate.
Yeah, and my wife, when they're asking, do you have a type? Right? And she's like, a type? Right? So we had to do some translation. So I understand that. Right? I deal with Japanese. I understand that. But you have the opportunity to be leaders. And the call is for you to be leaders because there are people out there that need your help. How many know people in New Zealand, Australia, or somewhere else in the world that are your personal friends that are suffering right now that could use this message? Okay, we need to get good at sharing the message. How the message works is done. Okay, you've seen the 4 categories. It's done. You learn a little bit about that, you can do it. But the most important thing is how we share this message. Okay? All right, let's take a couple questions.
Yes. Blake, I was just going to say, when you put the pram in the boot, don't forget to put in the clean nappies and a couple of dummies as well.
Right. Yeah, I have learned that asking for a napkin means different things in different countries. They're like, for you? Yes. Right. Right. Thyroid support, what do we do? Category, what's the category?
Soft tissue.
Soft tissue. Any extra add-ons? Yes. Ocean's Gold. Does this work even for people who need thyroid support because they don't have a thyroid? And the answer is? Yes. And in fact, there's a CD on this one called Thyroid Support. That's part of the media library. Or you can get it at whiteteamtools.com. Yeah, there's an interview with Dr. Judy Wright, who is the formulator of that product. In the back.
What would you recommend then as the best kind of CD for somebody to get this kind of information who's just starting out?
Okay. The best CD for this kind of information is this CD.
Even for somebody brand new. So
Now, if you're saying it's not the message on Dr. Wallach. Dr. Wallach's message is what CD? Dead Doctors Don't Lie. This is the number 2 CD. Okay, and it'll go over this information because it goes over the basics, a few things on advanced. That's the best one. Do we have other great CDs? Yes. One of them that I love is the interview with Richard Renton, Quality, Quality, Quality. Okay? But my top 20 favorites are in the CD case, in that, the media library. And I call it, again, the home study course, right? So they're my top ones. If you'd like to take a look at it, you're welcome to. To that PDF in the future, I plan on adding more descriptions. So the PDF, the form is only 4 pages. The PDF might turn into 7 or 8, right, as we add more information, if you want it, or just do a different one. But one of my favorites is Dr. Strausser's with selenium. And it's not just a CD. We've actually done a transcription and put this into a booklet. So you have it in print as well. Now, I don't have more than copies to show you. I don't have copies to share with you on that one. But that does exist in that. And this is the CD, Divine Magnificence of Nutrition. That's a CD with pharmacist Ben Fuchs. That drugs are not essential nutrients. Okay? There's one on nutrition and pregnancy, on an interview with that. Digestion. This is an interview with an eye doctor that's had, he said, 30 patients that were legally blind that are now seeing. And he talks about the reasons why people
Ronald
go.
Pugh, and I met him in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and he did not say Dr. Wallach was a liar, pencil fire.
Yeah, I know Dr. Pugh very well. Yeah, Dr. The oil CD here, and God's Recipe if you have people that need help with ADD and ADHD. It doesn't talk about products because it does talk about a disease. Nutrition for Athletes, Women and Children, Black Gene Lies. Wake Up America, could be Wake Up Australia, but it's called Wake Up America. And the Good Herbs CDs, which the Good Herbs will be products that will be coming here, especially as you have more naturopaths that are looking for herbal products. That'll be one. So those are some of the tools. Folks, we are done for the night, but before we officially end, can I invite... Did everybody try the creams?
Yeah.
Did you like the creams? Yeah. Whenever you do a meeting, I'm going to encourage you to use these creams. Every time you meet with someone. I have had people that sit down with me because their friend brought them, but they didn't really want to be there. You ever seen somebody like that? Like, I'm only here because she drugged me here and she said we're going to lunch afterwards, right? And so when they sit down with me, if they're not receptive, I say, here, try this. Do you have anything that hurts on you now? And I'll joke about it. I say muscle pain or joint pain, heartaches not so much. I say anything that hurts on you now, rub it on, see how you feel. When they feel better, their interest level goes up.
Yes.
Okay? And if in a meeting, people have a healthy dose of skepticism. You ever known anybody that's been skeptical? Anybody ever been skeptical themselves? Okay, there's a lot of theories. How do we know the best theory? It's the one that gives the best results, right? It's not the best advertising, it's the best results. When they feel results, their interest level and their belief goes up. And when their belief goes up, their actions go up. When their actions go up, they get better results. So I love to use these every time I'm meeting with someone. And so I carry them around and I'm sampling them and sharing them with you. Okay? And I encourage you to do the same thing. If you'll do that, you'll find that volumes go up, orders go up, results, retention goes up, and as a result, checks go up. Anybody interested in more vitamin M? Yes. Okay. All right, so that's what I want to encourage you to do. If it's all right, I'd like to bring up Tom and Sanjeev just to say a few closing remarks, because I want them to give you a little preview on what you're going to expect this weekend. We're bringing in some of the big guns here to share with you this weekend, because we really want to help you guys be the best you can be to reach as many people as you can. So this business building stuff is going to be amazing. Tom, you're the ambassador. I'll let you choose to go first, or
No, Sanjeev should go.
Sure?
Yeah, go ahead, Sanjeev.
First and foremost, how awesome was that? Obviously, I always get to learn so much from Blake, but the greatest thing is that you really understand how these products can make a huge impact in so many people's lives. And the philosophy is so universal as far as understanding that at the very end of the day, the more nutrition that you put into your body, the healthier that you can be, you know? And so I am super, super excited for all of you and myself and Tom and everyone for tomorrow and for Saturday, because there's going to be some really amazing training. And what I'm going to do for my part, because Blake did such a fantastic part in this, is kind of put this together in how to talk about it in a way where you don't necessarily need to be a wonderful Blake Graham, you know, and that you can talk about the entire message of longevity and putting together longevity and 90 for life and the healthy body packs and all of these amazing terms that we hear, but we don't necessarily know how it all kind of fits together in one kind of, you know, story that makes people say, wow, you know, let me at least try this. I love how Blake said that at the very end of the day, we're here to educate, right? We're here to just get people's minds open, and then they can enter, right? We always feel like we've got to force something into their mind and you've got to do this, and that's not our job. But there's a way to kind of talk about those things. There's a story that we all have that we bring into the longevity kind of lifestyle. And so that's what we're going to do. And we've got a lot of, obviously, other business training. But at the very end of the day, it's not business training. It's more about how can I effectively spread this message in the way that I want to spread it, you know? So anyways, and Tom, obviously, our ambassador, Tom Chenault, and his wonderful wife, Denise Chenault, will be doing a lot of the training. So Tom, why don't you share a little bit?
What I love about this is I don't have to be like either one of these guys. That's what I love. They get to be the rocket scientists and know everything about what's in the product and the whole shop, both of these guys. And then you've got Kevin Grundy, and but I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the tour guide and the talent scout. And I want to send people to the advanced product training CD. I want to be the tour guide that sends people to the Dead Doctors Don't Lie CD. And the person that sends the most people wins. And tomorrow we're going to teach you that. And we're going to teach you how to take this incredible product and the incredible product knowledge that, and he's getting a little creeped out because I keep hugging him here. So anyway, I love you.
He says
I love you.
he's a hugger.
I am a hugger. So, but you know, that's exactly right. I am a hugger. And you know, he who hugs most wins. I want you to know that. So lose the whole hip, slick, and cool deal and be a hugger. And I hadn't even thought of that, Blake. Thank you. So here's the deal, you guys. Tomorrow is going to be so much more fun than this. Because this was head knowledge. Tomorrow's going to be heart knowledge, and you're going to learn that every one of you already have those unique skills that you need to take this wherever you want. If you want to be the best product jockey in the history of New Zealand longevity, we're going to teach you to do that. If you want to learn how to train and develop people to build businesses with you, we're going to teach you how to do this. Tomorrow and Friday, tomorrow and Saturday, what's today?
Tomorrow and Saturday.
And you guys have heard how rich I am. I don't even know what day it is. That is so exciting. Can you imagine?
Just like Trump, actually.
The key to this thing, the key, guys, is come tomorrow. and come Saturday and just have an open mind and light your hair on fire. You're going to hear from Kurt Elder. You're going to hear from Kevin Grundy. You're going to hear from Rob. You're going to hear from Blake Graham. You're going to hear from Scott Bardulas. You're going to hear from Tracy Cox. What?
Mr. Jude.
I was going to run. Then you're going to hear from like legends in network marketing that live here. Michael, Jude, Krista Way, Zavana. You're going to hear from Manfred. You're going to hear how, because we want you to understand that this is the gateway to the world. That's how we're taking this on. Is you guys are the gateway to the world, and we are taking it massively seriously, and we want you to get that. So come back tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. Thank you for pointing out that I needed to do that. Good boy. Wrap her up. Thanks, Blake, very much.
Thanks. Scott, can I introduce you to two more?
Yeah.
I have with me Kurt Elder, who is a native Australian, and then Scott Fardulis, who have both come over from the U.S. to help you be the best that you can be. So this is Kurt Elder. You might notice he has a better accent than I do. Say a word.
Let's hear the accent.
I don't know what Blake is talking about.
You're doing it.
No, it's really exciting to be here. 12, 13 years ago when I joined Longevity, there weren't many of us around within Australia and New Zealand, so it's really exciting to see, the kind of it growing, and it's going to be great. And having all you leaders here, it's going to be really exciting to get together and we can train and we can grow together and grow Australia and New Zealand. So I'm excited for that. Scott? He's pre-engaged, so I guess we'll. Yeah, Scott was in the scrapbook.
Wow, you guys are, this was awesome.
Yeah.
We obviously didn't expect this many people because we didn't have this many chairs in here. So, it's Blake did a tremendous job, and I think that this is the information that you're hankering for, right? And so you're going to get a lot of product information, you're going to get a lot of business information, and then you can mold it together to make your own whatever you feel draws you into the business, and so you're going to get a little bit of everything.
All right.
And Scott is actually, he's been really working hard tonight because we have Dr. Wallach doing something tomorrow, and so he's been working on the agenda, and what's that?
Tell him it's tomorrow that he's Dr. Wallach's going to speak.
Yeah, that's right. So thanks. Everything she said. No, you know what? I outside of Dr. Wallach, personally, I've never met or known anybody ever in my experience in the network marketing arena that is more passionate and knowledgeable than Blake Graham. Would you please give him a hand?
My biggest claim to fame, though, is I'm a Dr. Wallach disciple. I didn't discover this. I've just hung around him enough that I try to make it easy for you to understand, and that's why we work on systemization. You don't have to memorize it. You got a CD. Now you have a form. Between the form and the CD, hopefully, it's real easy to do this part of it so that you can focus your time and attention on what Scott and Tom are talking about, and that's business building. Being the best you can be. You don't have to be a me, you don't have to be Scott, you don't have to be Tom, or Denise. You have to be yourselves. But be the best you can be at reaching people.
Yeah,
so it's not about me.
Thank you.
I'm a borrowed light. It's not my light. It's Dr. Wallach's light.
How many of you would love if all of a sudden we could wave a magic wand and instantaneously Dr. Wallach would appear just to say hi to everybody?
Hell yeah!
Well, the next best thing besides performing miraculous magic is that we will have him beaming in tomorrow, live, to talk to everyone via technology. So even though he's not able to physically be here, he will be here live tomorrow via technology. So here's the thing, we've been able to work out the schedule, and tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we will have him addressing everybody for close to an hour. So, yeah. So that's the best we could do. We were so excited to be able to get him for that hour, and with the time changes and everything, it was close to a miracle to get him to pull that off. So that's happening. But how many of you are excited to really delve into the nuts and bolts of being professional network marketers? Let me hear you. So we're going to add that to the mix tomorrow as well. But I'll tell you what, be on time, bring all of your energy, all of your enthusiasm, come just completely open, ready to learn, ready to absorb. We're going to feed you like it's come out of a fire hydrant. So you all need funnels for your whole face tomorrow, because we're just going to give it to you as fast as much as we can. We're going to have a great time, but please be on time. So the doors are opening at 8:40. And here's the thing. You want to sit as close to the front as possible, and the early birds always get the worms, so get there early, get in line, get everything out of the way, and just be ready to start on time. Everybody in their seats. We have to be on time, because we are filling every moment of every second the whole entire weekend. We've worked really hard on this agenda. We've got a great cast of speakers. It's really diverse. You're going to learn a lot from people, their wisdom, their experiences, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So you guys excited? Yes! All right, we'll see you in the morning.
And if you rode in the taxis, they're here and the meter has already started, so hurry.